The time has come for my annual ranking of every new release I saw in the previous year. Last year, I believe I set my record by watching 144 new releases from the year 2024. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Coming in last place at number 144. I had to pick one. I can't do the trick that I did in my worst of the year list. I'm going Madam Web, where in general, the Sony Spider-Man list universe I find to be just such a cynical concept where they just had access to things and they're just anything, milking it like crazy, just cranking it out, whether it's a good idea or not, because they think we're stupid and we will buy tickets to see anything Spider-Man related, in which case they made a movie that is the prequel to the origin story for like 5 D-level Spider-Man spin-off characters. That's such a stupid idea. It's such a bad idea that it makes no sense that you would do that unless you just have such a low view of ticket buyers and think that they would do that. Even in the press tour for this movie, Dakota Johnson called out the executive for thinking that audiences were stupid. And then the movie tanked, bombed, got horrible reviews. Beyond that, it's like poorly executed, just bizarre performances. None of the actresses have any chemistry. Like, it's like they're talking, reading their cards, lines off cards off screen. It just doesn't work. And then there's this ADR to replace lines. So mess of a film, cynical film that to me didn't even have all of that much so bad it's good. And even like the insane product placement where the main villain is killed by a Pepsi sign. Just like, and they like pause and go like, oh, there's my drink. Why do I reached for a can of compressed air to drink. Like, hey, that's where my brain's at. We're on the first movie and I'm already grabbing cans of compressed air to drink them.
You're talking too long for one movie.
No, but it's Madam Web. It's Madam Web. But anyway, they like pick up a can and go like, I'm having a drink and it's a Pepsi. Like, come on now. This is my pick for this. 143 Borderlands. This is a film that probably should have been much better. At some point in time, it would have been much better. Supposedly, the early script from about 4 years ago was written by Craig Mazin, who did Last of Us, Chernobyl, had great buzz surrounding it. So they end up getting these Oscar winners to sign on to the project, and then they keep rewriting it, and they keep tweaking it, and they shoot the movie in 2021, 3 years ago, and then they keep tweaking it. They keep changing it. And by the time you get to a year ago, Craig Mazin, the credited writer, years after it was filmed, petitions to have his name removed because it wasn't the film that he signed on for. The stunt people, the VFX people openly stated, yeah, we shot an R-rated movie. There's blood, body parts everywhere. None of that's in the movie. They changed it. Simple fact of the matter, there was too many cooks on this one.
Too many cooks, too many cooks.
And when you do that, when everyone has their own opinion, you get a movie with no clear focus, no clear vision, that's a mess. And that's what this film is. That despite having very rich source material, a bunch of great actors, a big budget, and a script that at one point in time was awesome, you get a terrible movie with no cohesiveness. Number 142, Snow White and the Seven Samurai. Now, you might be saying, I've never heard of this. Well, of course you haven't, because it's this low-budget garbage Asylum film. If you don't know what Asylum is, they're the studio infamous for putting out mockbusters. Transformers comes out, they put out Transmorphers. Like that sort of thing. They try and trick people. Or if a movie comes out that's the source material is in public domain, they'll put out their own version of that movie that's horrible. Or like they've got their movies that look like the Cars films that have that that Pixar Cars vibe to the Cars. Like I said Cars too many times there because the Cars stars Cars and they have their own Cars in this spin-off rip-off thing of Cars. But just trying to exploit people's foolishness. This time they came up with a good title, thought maybe there's something there. No, there was not. It's just dreadful. The action, the plot, the acting, there's nothing of value here. It's not worth watching for so bad it's good. It's just incompetent filmmaking with a really, really fun title that they utterly wasted. Number 141, Rebel Moon Part 2. This is the Zack Snyder version of Star Wars. I actually really like Zack Snyder. I went into these movies very hopeful because I think that he's a director that actually has a flavor, a vision, a style in an era where so many movies, when we're in like the 80s, 90s, 100s on this list, these mediocre studio products, they're entirely watchable, but they have no flavor. They have no distinct vision. Zack Snyder has this distinct vision. But even directors with a great vision that can put out great movies can put out bad movies.
Sometimes people drop stinkers.
And in this case, Snyder dropped a stinker with the Rebel Moon movies. They're just not good scripts. He's got great visuals, and he's a bad writer. And despite the fact that he's had this idea in his head for like 30 years, it's not good. And it's so derivative of Star Wars, of Magnificent Seven, Battle Beyond the Stars, Seven Samurai. It's so derivative. It's just beat by beat with stock characters with nothing interesting about them. And so part 2, I thought it was a little better because it's all action. It's like an hour straight of action in this one. So like mildly more entertaining, but it's also like an hour straight of people like walking through wheat fields and stuff. So just like, what? Why? Zach, why? Why can't you bring in outside writers, not your buddy that tells you what you want to hear, but someone else to take your ideas, the thing that you're excited about, and make a good script out of it, and then do your visual polish on it. But even visually, like this one felt like a caricature of Zack Snyder's work. Number 140 on here, and then if you can give me an update on the audio and everything like that. A Family Affair. This is a Netflix original film with starring Zac Efron, Nicole Kidman, and that girl that's in a lot of Netflix films. It's the kind of movie where you just go like, why did any of you sign up for this? Like Zac Efron did The Iron Claw a few months before this, where he should have gotten a Best Actor nomination. It should have got like fantastic film. And then he does streaming slop. There's nothing here that's interesting. There's nothing here that's new, captivating, anything like that. It's 100% streaming content. No art, just content to fill it out, where you create this generic script and then you put movie stars in it. And so then people like us go, oh, Zac Efron, oh, Nicole Kidman, I'm going to click on that. And you get A Family Affair. Number 139, The Killer. This one, like, legitimately was disheartening to me. So The Killer from 1989 is a classic action film from John Woo that was groundbreaking. And, like, the most dynamic shootouts that had ever been seen, and to this day are some of the most dynamic shootouts that have ever been captured. It's the style that the Wachowskis copied for The Matrix that became very popular in the US. Even like some of the stuff that Zack Snyder does with the slow-mo and how dynamic it is traces back to what John Woo was doing with his heroic bloodshed films from the 1980s and early 90s with Chow Yun-fat. And the one that is widely regarded as the best is The Killer. That has great dynamics with the characters, just great story. It's like a tragic romance, but it's also a bromance, all at the same time with incredible action. And for 30 years, they've been trying to remake this film. Like Nick Nolte was going to star in it in the early 90s. Walter Hill was writing on the script, and they just couldn't crack the code. And some of that is how just like out of touch and crazy Hollywood is. The central friendship in the original version is these two men. One is an assassin, one is a cop that's tracking him down, and they form this friendship. And Hollywood in the early 90s was afraid that audiences would think they were gay. And so they decided they needed to gender swap it so that people wouldn't be confused. Like that's actually the thinking in insane Hollywood, that I hate that on so many levels of wherever that thinking comes from. that is so damaging to even the concept of portraying male friendship on screen, and you don't see very many good male friendships in Hollywood films. So you watch RRR, which is not a Hollywood film, and you go, male friendship. Two men that love each other, and there's not an ounce of like, we have to like make it clear it's not romantic. Because they're just like, yes, men can actually be friends with each other. That's what The Killer is. Like that's the whole concept, like opposites. They're one is a cop and one is an assassin. So they gender swapped it 30 years ago. John Woo decides to remake his own film 10 years ago, and they keep the gender swap idea, and it kind of breaks the whole film. Because the dynamics of it, there is a romance in it because there's like someone that gets blinded in one of the missions, and then there's the relationship with the cop. And so it's all about this tragic romance. It's all about this friendship between two opposites, and these like it's all about that stuff. And I believe that's removed. It's all gone. None of it works. It doesn't have any of the depth. None of it's nearly as compelling because of this choice that was made 30 years ago and then it has become trendy in Hollywood the last decade. And they broke the film. And so now you take a classic movie and you convert it into just a generic action movie, streaming action movie with that like overly lit look that all streaming movies have with the digital cameras. The action, like, it's probably above average for most action movies because it's John Woo, but it's nothing compared to what he was doing before. And, like, the lead actress in it, she was Game of Thrones. She was in, the Fast and the Furious movies. I like her. I don't have anything against her. She is not Chow Yun-Fat. She's just not, like... You know, like, if you don't understand how cool Chow Yun-Fat was in the 80s and 90s, she's just not that. And so it's just like a film that it's heartbreaking to see someone convert their own movie into something like this. So, yeah, I'm probably talking too long. Some of these ones, I'm just mad about them. Unfrosted, I'll talk quickly because I've already said all my piece on this one. People have seen me rant about this one. Jerry Seinfeld's movie. It's a joke that he's been writing for 12 years. He literally did an interview where he told the joke, and then he made the movie about this joke about the origin of the Pop-Tart. I didn't get it. I didn't think it was funny. It's like absurdist stuff that... To me, it just didn't work. It wasn't interesting. Like the jokes are stuff like, there's a part in it where they test a Pop-Tart and the Pop-Tart works, but like a guy blows up. It's the sort of thing like just like random chaos, weird stuff happening that I just didn't think it was funny. And I like Jerry Seinfeld's comedy. Like his stand-up or his other stuff is so like clever and witty. And this was just like base level wacky humor. There was like observational humor for people that were born in the 1950s. So who's this movie for? Like I just didn't get it. Imaginary. This every year Blumhouse will put out a couple of great movies and then like 20 terrible movies. And I kind of dig that. I like the fact that they take chances and they tell original stories, but a bad movie's a bad movie. And I didn't see some of the other awful films they put out. So the one I did see, Imaginary, is the one that comes in at near the bottom of this list. And this should have been an easy win. You just do Child's Play with an imaginary friend. It's like takes a familiar concept and does a spin on it that is different. And imaginary friends, the kills would be different. The nature of people not believing would be different. So there's all sorts of imagination you can have with that. This movie has none of that. It goes in a kind of a weird direction in the third act that could have been interesting, but it felt like it belonged on a different movie than this movie. So I just didn't think it worked all that well. Do people want to chime in, or are you just reading your phone?
Mousetrap.
People, that's one of their picks.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of wanted to see it for obvious reasons. Sometimes it's fun to watch terrible movies because they just give you great material to just roast a movie. But this year, I'd already seen 144 movies. I already had enough movies that I was like, I'm very comfortable roasting these films, and I'm going too long roasting these films. So I skipped out. But we'll come back to those in just a little bit. But I skipped out on that one. Number 134, Mean Girls. I think the original Mean Girls is like a really good high school comedy with commentary that is fairly universal. that has stood the test of time. We watched it with our 10-year-old earlier this year, and she dug it and like became obsessed with Lindsay Lohan this year, which is kind of fun. Just when you have those actresses, those child actors that really do, you realize there was something magic there. They had that spark, that magnetism that has stood the test of time. But this, it felt so pointless to me. It's an adaptation. It's not really a remake of the movie. It's an adaptation of the musical that is an adaptation of the film. The problem is, in the last 20 years, so much has changed with high school politics, high school dynamics. The nature of bullying in high school now is different than it was 20 years ago because of social media and these little doodads that's in everybody's pocket, that the movie, it just felt out of touch. And so there's songs thrown into it. I'm not super into musicals, so that didn't like help my experience. So that did nothing to add anything. All the times it does the big moments, like it pauses to be like, you know, get in losers, whatever the line is. It pauses and zooms in on the face, and you're like, you're doing the line. It ruins it when you do that. You're just repeating it. You're doing a bad cover of it. Like you're covering your own movie poorly. And then the big problem. The previous film starred Lindsay Lohan, like a one-in-a-generation child actress that just cut through, had that magnetism, and Rachel McAdams, an actress who's been a movie star since Mean Girls came out, so really great. And that's not who stars it. Like, you just don't have replacements for them in this film, so it just feels like a cheap bar cover of your favorite movie without anything added to it. 133, My Spy, The Eternal City. I'll just fly through this one. I don't know why we made a sequel to this movie, and I don't know who this movie was for. Like, it starts off with like this very Nickelodeon, Disney Channel movie, goofy action sequence, which is fine. And then the movie's filled with actual raunchy jokes. We're watching it with our kids, and I was like, what? These are actual raunchy jokes. Who's this movie for? It's so childish. The previous movie is about a little girl, but now she's in high school, so it's like they aged it up. I didn't think it worked. Despicable Me 4, number 132. I just feel they've lost the plot. Superficially, sure, it's entertaining enough. Sure, superficially, if you had fun with it, I get it, I guess. But the whole concept of a villain as the protagonist and raises these girls, it's just gone now. And he's not really a villain anymore and hasn't been for a long time. And there's always heists and there's a million subplots. It's just all about these little bits. It's like it's designed for the TikTok generation. And so there's just all these little segments where they go to a martial arts school and they're rescuing something over here. And there's a little bit in the kitchen over there. But there's nothing cohesive about any of it. It's just a bunch of setups for bits, bookended by a plot with a villain that I did not care about. Number 131, Kraven the Hunter. Now, this was a bad movie, but at least it was a fun time in the theater. This is some of the most fun I had in the theater. I wish that like Jennifer could have gone with me or someone else that I could like have shared that moment from my household with. I sat next to some of my YouTube friends on there, Jones Vibes Reviews, check out his channel, see a lot of movies with him. I was sitting next to him and Robert from the Cinefanatics, a bunch of people that like go to film festivals and stuff. We were sitting there, and so we got like, as my little community, got a great memory out of it. If you know the YouTube channel Double Toasted, they're from Austin too. They're at the same theater as me, and so Corey and Martin were in the row in front of me. Julian was the row behind me. They told if you want to know about like the most fun Austin critic screening this year, it was Kraven. They told the story about the insanity that took place in the theaters. We all started laughing at the theater. Go check that out over on Double Toasted. But movie itself is just terrible. It once again is a bad idea for a movie from this very cynical studio that is taking advantage of us. Kraven is a villain, and a fun villain. And I think I saw in a Jeremy Johns, maybe in his video, he said like, why don't they just have Kraven hunting Venom? If we're doing a shared universe, have Kraven hunt Venom. If you don't want to do Spider-Man, like I think he proposed that. Someone else said that's not my idea, but like there's so many things you could have done here that make it a cohesive shared universe that would be interesting. No, we didn't do that. This is like borrowing the templates from the comic book movies of 20 years ago, but just once again, just overcooking the entire thing. This was supposed to come out a year ago. They spent a year re-editing it, reshooting it, ADRing it. If you don't know what ADR, it's automated dialogue replacement. So in the movie, where if lines of dialogue are muffled or if lines not good, you replace it afterwards. And every movie does that. But the bad version is something's wrong with the movie. So we're cutting scenes, we're reworking scenes. So you do ADR in order to fill in gaps in the plot and make things make sense. So you have shots where you're seeing the back of someone's head while they're talking and their head's bobbing a little bit, but they're saying something totally different from what was said on set. And they say that to like patch together scenes that are deleted, reworking the movie, stuff like that. This movie's filled with that. And it's still filled with some of the worst lines of dialogue I've ever seen in a movie and the worst performances. The lead actress in this won an Oscar for West Side Story. She was like, had her statue in hand and then got in a plane to go out and fly this movie and gives an abysmal performance. I don't know how that happens. I saw her at Fantastic Fest. She opened another movie we'll talk about here, House of Spoils. She's really fun. She was so fun during the Q&A, so charismatic and lively. I don't know how they sucked the life out of her as a person that's very fun and her as an Oscar winner to give the performances and the line reads she gives in this movie. But she literally says in the movie, afterwards, my grandmother died. I have not seen her since. The delivery's horrible. The line itself, insanely stupid. And this is after they cut the movie and reshot it and ADR'd it. That made the cut. They're like, that was still good. That's one of the better things we captured. What's this version from a year ago? What is this insane thing that they put out that somehow that's the improved version? So, and I can't wait till this one is available on streaming and people pull out all the clips. There's so much insanity with this movie. There's so much bizarre stuff, insane lines that I can play them for her, laugh out loud at just how weird this movie is.
Weird.
Throw in some little clips in here, close this.
Life is precious, life is short, and the idiots who made this film are taking 2 hours of my life and robbing it from me.
Uh-oh. It's been brought to my attention that I forgot how to count. That's what happens on these live streams. I've got all these notes in front of me and I miss things. Skipped over it like that, little 2 whole movies. 137 Atlas. We'll talk real quick on this one. It's a mech suit movie about Jennifer Lopez in a mech suit. Like 75% of the runtime of this movie is her in a mech suit. Right there you go. Yeah, movie star, hot chick shooting robots in a mech suit. How is this is easy to be a schlocky win. Just kill robots. You know what this movie's about? It's about her becoming friends with her robot. She's like walking around in the trees. I'm learning that AIs aren't so bad after all, which is hilarious because while this movie was being shot, written, or whatever, was while all the strikes, and AI was a big part of the strikes was going on, the dangers of AI and having proper boundaries, Netflix being one of the worst defenders, and then they put out a movie that instead of having her shoot AIs, instead of, mech suit, Terminator, whatever, we get, my friend the AI, defending AI. Awesome. 136, The Crow. This movie was always in a tough spot because is a remake or readaptation of the Eric Draven story. Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, one of the most tragic stories in all of Hollywood. Bruce Lee's son is making The Crow, the movie that solidified him as a movie star and would have propelled his career. He was shot and killed on set filming the movie. Just horrifying story. And then that movie is like a goth revenge classic of the 90s with great style. And so when someone dies making a movie, the film's kind of put on a pedestal. It's kind of put in the sacred category. The Crow lore doesn't have to be about Eric Draven, though. They could have told a story about a different crow and people would have been more forgiving of the film. But because they made it Eric Draven, which is Brandon Lee, this movie always had an uphill battle, and they decided to make it about the romance, and so half the movie is about these two people breaking out of rehab on a weekend fling. You don't buy into the relationship. You just don't. It doesn't work. And so the whole movie's built around the concept that he would give up eternity for her. You don't believe it. And then you get one awesome action set piece towards the end, and if the whole movie was that, the movie would have been awesome. But it wasn't. Number 30 on here, trigger warning. It's a Jessica Alba action movie. I literally don't have much to say about it. It was like Jessica Alba killing people once again these are easy
Did
wins.
I watch it?
You watched this movie with me. You're like, oh, Jessica Alba, yeah, let's exactly. Jessica Alba murders people for 2 hours. First Blood, revenge story, and there's just nothing remarkable about it. Nothing worth remembering. So it didn't make us mad. We weren't like, oh, that thing sucked. It's just like, oh yeah, that thing happened, didn't it? All right, number 129 on here, VHS Beyond. Simple fact of the matter for me.
It's probably an understatement. I would call this the barf bag movie of July.
Simply put, these movies make me sick. I physically cannot watch them. There are some clever segments that I found interesting, but I as a reviewer, I don't detach myself from my own experience watching the film. This was the most unwatchable film I watched this year. Like, I literally, that Jones vibes I mentioned before that I saw Kraven with, I was sitting next to him at Fantastic Fest watching this movie, and I was watching it like this. By the second segment, I was doing this because I was getting nauseous. These are the only movies that do that to me, are the VHS films. And some of, whether it's the shaky cam, the low res, the crackle, the way that they're cut, they make me sick. So there's a couple really interesting bits, but otherwise just... it literally made me sick, so I have to put it very low on my list. If that's not your experience, don't be mad at me that I have it really low. I just have to give my honest take, and that's for people that are made sick by these films. They need to know this one will make you sick too. 128, Blackout. I like no joy in roast. I don't want to roast this film at all. It's a micro budget indie film that I saw at the Outlook Film Festival, and I just didn't like it. It's a werewolf movie that I found to be very repetitious in the first half about this guy coming back after disappearing as he started to turn into a werewolf, and just keeps having the same conversation. And then as it moves into the back half, I just thought it was just so improbable. Everyone made bad choices so that the plot could move forward. So I just didn't think it was very good. No joy there. Didn't think it was very good. 127, I'm sorry, Jennifer, Damsel. Jennifer, like, why do they keep making these Millie Bobby Brown weird streaming movies? Because Jennifer watches them on loop. So she's seen the movie. What was this one? You've only seen, 6,000 times just this movie?
Like 100 times.
Like 100 times. So, it in a sense, it's fine because it's professionally produced, and Millie Bobby Brown is, obviously has a screen presence, and there's dragons in it. But if you're going to do a movie like this, I don't think the script was very good. I don't think the story was compelling enough given what we're doing.
So sad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just...
I've hesitated to show Chloe because of that. I don't know if she'll like
and
it.
she showed it to Chloe, and Chloe's been in a deep depression ever since.
I haven't showed
Why
it.
would
I did
the
not
girl
show it.
from Stranger Things be in such a film? That's how Chloe talks now.
She's like an English orphan.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, right. I'm great with impressions. 126, The Union. This is another one of these just so forgettable streaming movies. It was fine. I wasn't offended by it. You remember this one?
I'm sorry, what?
The Union. Yeah, right, exactly. We watched it 2-3 months ago. This Halle Berry, Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah, okay.
So they're, it's just pretty classic formula. The person gets recruited for the spy team, and they go on the mission, and there's a twist, and who's the traitor, who's the mole. Oh, it's all the cliches. Every cliche. There's a little bit of Men in Black, a ton of Mission Impossible, just like pulling plot points from all these different movies. Movie stars, so it's totally watchable if you just threw it on Netflix without just sitting there kind of watching on your phone. It's fine. But if you're making a spy movie with Halle Berry and Mark Wahlberg, your movie should be a lot better than fine. And all the supporting cast is great too. So it's that stuff. Just totally lifeless movies that irritate me. Venom: The Last Dance, number 125. This was just a real disappointment. I wasn't crazy about the first Venom when it first came out, but it grew on me because she actually liked it, which surprised me. And then Liam loves Venom. So I actually really dug Part 2, which a lot of people don't like that one, but I actually really dug that one. So I was very excited for this one. The trailers made it seem like it would have a big emotional payoff. So much there, I was like, oh, this could be really cool. And then the movie itself has a cool third act. But the first 2 acts, it's just generic road trip stuff where you think, what's the unique value that this movie can offer? What can we do that other movies can't do? And the third act has that. The first 2 acts are a road trip movie that offer goofy antics that you can see in any other movie, where they're like riding in the car with the hippies. That feels like something other movies have done, and like bantering. Do you like sing-alongs? Do you like sing? Like just that sort of stuff that I just thought it wasted so much of its runtime. And therefore, when we got to the third act, in the big ends of everything, it didn't feel earned or deserved. 124, Garfield. Now, I grew up on Garfield and Friends. Like, that was a big part of my childhood. I can't say, like, Garfield's not, like, one of my favorites or anything like that. So I wasn't superly emotionally invested in this or anything like that. I just thought it was such a waste of Garfield. That instead of, once again, what makes Garfield unique? Fat cat, lasagna, little antics and adventures. He just wants to stay at home, pick on Odie and John, all that stuff. What's this movie about? It's like a ripoff of Mission Impossible, except Garfield has daddy issues. What does it have anything to do with Garfield? That's the stuff that frequently annoys me with certain movies, and that's kind of the case with this film. 123, Dogman. This is a secret screening at Fantastic Fest. I actually saw it in 2023, but it came out this year. It's the new film from Luc Besson. And they said, we're showing Dogman. My kids read the Dogman books, which is something totally different, and a movie comes out for that at the end of this month. So when they said they were doing Dogman, I was like, the Pilkey books? Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, no, it's a new Luc Besson film. And Luc Besson's kind of been #MeToo'd. He's not on good terms with Hollywood. So, like, as soon as they announced it, people were, like, walking out of the theater immediately. And then we watched it, and it's this very strange movie about like a drag queen performer that was raised with dogs that's also kind of a crime boss, and the story's told essentially with the Forrest Gump storytelling mechanism. So make of that what you will. If you hear that and you go, that's so weird and random, I would love to see that, you'll probably really appreciate this very weird and random film. As someone that went in without any proper expectations, anything, I was like, what is this? And afterwards, it got even funnier because they did a Q&A with Luc Besson, who was like standing in the middle of the street in, I guess, Paris, trying to do this Q&A, and the tech wasn't working, so we could see him, but we couldn't hear him, and he couldn't hear us, and so he was just doing this for 5 minutes straight with some famous statue from Paris in the background, and we're just laughing about this weird movie we just saw. It was fascinating, weird stuff. 122, Little Bites. This is a little film. I saw it at Fantastic Fest. It was directed by Spider One. That is the lead singer of Power Man 5000, the band, and he's also Rob Zombie's brother. And it's a vampire story that's kind of like a metaphor for addiction and toxic relationships. I just thought it was boring, and I didn't think the metaphor worked. It was just like, there's just too many gaps in it that I was like, I think I see what you're going for, but this just doesn't work for me. And it's like, even the title, Little Bites, is about the little bites that this vampire that's in this person's basement are taking out of them. It's their secret that's sucking the life out of them, but they can't stop. Very obvious what it's kind of going for. You're pretty on the nose. And I just didn't think it came together all that well. 121, In a Violent Nature. This is essentially, it's if you did a Friday the 13th movie from the perspective of Jason. That's what it is. Like, it's overtly that. It's its own lore, it's its own character, Johnny, that has his own look, but he's in the woods and hunts down campers, and it's a slasher. So it's like you're following him around, which is an interesting concept. But as soon as you play it out, like, what does Jason do when he's not killing people? He sits in the woods and he walks around in the woods. So watching that for 90 minutes, you can see the problem here. And the movie's infamous for putting people to sleep because a large percentage of the runtime is him just walking through the woods. And it's just this very soothing shuffling sound with nature sounds. Like, it sounds like a noise machine that has a forest setting that you would have to go to bed to. And that's the runtime. Before it started at the film festival where I saw it, the director joked about that. Be careful, you might fall asleep watching our movie. which is an odd intro to your own film, but it's an interesting concept, interesting experiment. If you're a slasher fan, it's worth seeing because it is different. I just don't think the experiment paid off. Number 120 on here, kind of the same ballpark, of interesting spin on slasher movies with a Friday the 13th vibe. The Last Video Store. And this is one I saw at Fantastic Fest 2023 once again, but it released this year. Honestly, I don't remember it very well. It's kind of like it's like a video store that starts to come to life and people have to battle characters. There's some fun, interesting ideas in there, but because the budget was so limited and because it's all in this one place, the concept of being at a video store doesn't match up with these characters coming to life. There's not enough you can do in that one setting with these big lively characters. So it didn't fully deliver for me. Did I skip any? We all good? Any important comments? I'm gonna keep pushing on so that we can hopefully not fall behind or we can catch up a little bit. Our Little Secret 119. This is a Lindsay Lohan Christmas Netflix movie. It's fine. Like, if you're just in the mood to, like, throw on a Lindsay Lohan Christmas movie, that's just, like, sometimes you're just in the mood for something. Like, it's fine. But that's the category that it's in. You just want to throw something on that demands absolutely nothing from you. You get a little Lindsay Lohan, and it's like two people that used to date or engaged, and they end up at a party together, and they're going to be there for, like, this Christmas or whatever. They're at this Christmas deal for like 3 days, and they
family Christmas,
family Christmas, but they're all there from like different people, and
they're dating siblings.
They're dating siblings. Is that what it was?
Yeah, she's dating a brother and he's dating the sister.
Oh,
and then they.
So she was really invested. This is her favorite movie of the year.
It is not. How dare you?
She loved that film, but like it's like one of these simple concepts, and they don't want to make the other people uncomfortable that they know what kind of happened. How does the siblings not know that they dated before then? If there's
they didn't tell them.
They were almost engaged the year before.
They didn't tell them.
They know, but
bad communication.
This is
super huge.
This is
like rom-coms.
Like, I mean, levels
Bad
of like the concept here is like they're pretend like they don't know each other, even though they used to almost be engaged. But, like, it doesn't quite add up. This is charming enough, but, like, you see the problems here. 118, Rebel Moon, the director's cut. It's the better version, but it's still number 118 on this list. Where I just feel like the whole thing was ill-conceived. That the idea of doing the two cuts felt like Netflix trying to release the Snyder cut, trying to manufacture that where it didn't fit. The reality is there's just not a lot of demand. Like, Zack Snyder as a brand has a built-in audience, and that built-in audience is grown-up dudes, which is even a joke in Barbie. Like, everybody knows it's grown-up men. It's not 13-year-old boys. 13-year-old boys are not like, man, I want to see the PG-13 version of Rebel Moon. So the idea that you'd greenlight the crazy, insane Zack Snyder version of Star Wars, but also make a second version that is designed for teenage boys, it doesn't actually make sense.
Not a great plan.
The reality, the demand is only there for the R-rated one. So they put out both versions, so I went in very cynical towards it. The opening scene on the director's cut is very cool. It's like a cool little sequence, but the director's cut doesn't solve any of the character issues. It doesn't make it less derivative. Like, it's more fun when there's like body parts being chopped up. So it's more entertaining. It's like, it doesn't feel like there's sections missing like there was before, but it's still just not very good as an original story. It's just Zack Snyder cool action set pieces with blood, boobs, explosions everywhere. 127, Azrael. This is one that I wish I was able to rewatch it or had rewatched it because it feels like a movie I should like a lot more than I did. I saw it at a South by Southwest, And it was kind of a weird context. I almost missed it. There's some stuff that went down that was frustrating. I did get in to see it. I didn't really know a lot about it. Essentially, it's like a post-apocalyptic movie where there's these things called the Burnt. They're kind of zombies sort of deals. It's it's after the rapture, so it's kind of biblical. And people have like cut out their voice boxes so they can't talk. So it's basically a silent film. But and Samara Weaving's trying to survive. There's a lot there that seems like something I should enjoy. I just didn't connect with it. I just had too many issues with the plot, and I didn't think because you have a movie that the specific lore is what makes it pop, and you have characters that can't speak, you can't unpack the lore. Like doing a biblical post-apocalyptic movie with creatures everywhere, that's interesting, and you want to unpack all of that. How do you unpack it? People talking. So I thought there's just some stuff in there that just didn't quite add up. Never Let Go. This is one I saw it at its world premiere at Fantastic Fest. But the weirdness of this one, the movie debuted at its world premiere was after it released in theaters. Only by hours, but it had released in theaters around the country, and then the world premiere was that night. And so we actually saw it after. I saw it after I would have seen it otherwise, because I saw it at its world premiere. I actually did the red carpet. Halle Berry was there. I didn't talk to her, but I filmed while Cody Leach got to talk to her a little bit, which is pretty fun. Movie itself was, thought it got better as it went along. The first half, I didn't think it was kind of frustrating. It's like that movie Frailty that we watched when we were first married that freaked you out. It has a lot of those vibes to it. We weren't
married yet.
Oh, it was before we got married.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a test to see if she could put up with my insanity. I ended up failing that test is the way that one worked out. But like as it went along and started like giving more answers, I thought it got a little bit better. But overall, I kind of found myself kind of frustrated by the movie overall. 115, The Killer's Game. Now, this is a script that's been around for like 20 or 30 years. Like, it's been around for a long time. And then the movie finally comes out. Stars Dave Bautista, a lot of familiar faces and all the side roles and everything like that. Lively action movie where a hitman is diagnosed with a terminal disease. So he puts a hit out on himself. So the insurance policy that he has is paid to his girlfriend. And it's fine. I like the genre. So watching it, I was entertained enough. But it's a movie where the premise never made any sense. Because you immediately go, wait, if you have several $1 million to take a hit out on yourself, why don't you just give several $1 million to your girlfriend? You don't need to take out an insurance policy on yourself. Like it's that sort of thing of like, I get what you're going for here. And when you have a script that's 30 years old and you haven't ironed out that kink yet, making the basic premise make sense, you've got a lot of problems with your script. And that's like, so genre-wise, it's entirely watchable for me. The script, not so great. 115, The Killer's, that's what we just did. 114, Lights Out. This was a direct-to-video action movie with Frank Grillo in it. I think Scott Adkins was in there too. It was fine. I don't remember, I'm saying fine too much. I was watching it. I was okay with it. It left no mark. There's some MMA things in it, I think, or an underground fighting aspect, and there's some crime, and there's some shootouts, but I don't remember much about it. I did not have negative thoughts about it. I remember the negative stuff. I also don't remember the positive. So just kind of one of those movies that kind of fits in that blur of like, okay, yeah, there it goes on the list. 113, The Watchers. This is the movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. I was actually able to interview her after watching the movie. I wish that I would have liked the movie more, but at least it was a film that was like her father's films. They might not be good, but at least there's something interesting to discuss there. So there's some fun ideas with the use of lore, kind of with this kind of gimmick of people in this building in this woods and they can't leave. But like so many of her father's films, when you get the answers in the back third of the movie, you're like, ooh, no, you didn't pull that one off. That wasn't so great after all. So that's disappointing that it couldn't pull it off better. Book of Clarence. This is an odd one where it's I don't know where to place it because there's things about it that are kind of well done, but it's like a guy is inspired by Jesus. Like during the time of Jesus, the guy's inspired by Jesus to start his own religious movement because he sees what Jesus is doing is very profitable. So he starts his own movement. And so the first thing you think about it, oh, that's going to be really blasphemous. It's not actually as blasphemous as you would think. It's actually heretical, the way the direction that it goes, because it ends up being very pro-Jesus. But I believe, if I recall correctly, it was Gnostic. It was like overtly taking scenes and theology from Gnosticism, not from Orthodox Christianity. So it was kind of interesting, but also like, what are we doing? What is the point of this? Why is this happening? I don't get it. Number 111, one of the ones you guys keep asking me about, or asked about before. I say keep asking as if I'm reading the comment section. That is not happening whatsoever. You are, not me. One that was commented on as one of the worst movies of the year, Joker Folly You Do. As I said in my reviews, this is a movie that I respect the boldness. Did I fully enjoy it? No. But is it a movie worth making remarks about? Yes, it is. Thus, in a sense, it actually is remarkable. Is it good? I don't know. But like in a year where we're about to get to the section where there's a whole bunch of these just generic, like enjoyable enough streaming movies or franchise movies that are just flavorless. Enjoyable but flavorless. No vision. Then you get Todd Phillips with such a clear vision. I want to step on everyone's toes. Whatever you liked about the first Joker, the Scorseseisms, the Joker-isms, the great character work, whatever the genre, whatever you enjoyed, whatever you wanted out of the sequel. Oh, we're going to get to see the Clown Prince of Crime in the Scorsese-esque world. He was like, nah, it's a musical. Nah, it's a courtroom drama. Nah, he's not the Joker. Whatever you wanted, he just mashes on your toes. There's something I appreciate about that. And I unpacked this a lot in my my spoiler review. I had someone message me and share some thoughts, and so I included that in the video. But there's an interesting idea that Todd Phillips basically made the movie as the same way that Arthur is being told who he is. He's the Joker. He's a criminal. He's a psycho. He's a hero. He's an anti-hero. And Harley is telling him who he is. Everyone's telling him who he is, and he's trying to be his own person, then snaps and rebels against all of it. Todd Phillips is doing that with this movie. He's tired of people telling him what his movie was, what it's supposed to be. So he's like, I'm just going to stick it to all of it. I'm going to try and do everything. And the whole movie's about identity, and the movie itself is a meta commentary on itself. That's interesting. Is it good? Well, no, I didn't really enjoy it, but it stuck in my brain. It made me think. And that's what art's supposed to do. So I can't put it towards the bottom for me because I found it too interesting to be able to do that. 110, Time Cut. This is the second time travel slasher film about trying to save someone that was murdered decades in the past. The interesting thing, Totally Killer was the other one. It came out a year ago. Interesting thing about it, this one was shot first, sat on a shelf. Totally Killer, after this movie was shot, Totally Killer was shot, edited, released, and a year later, Time Cut finally comes out. I much preferred Totally Killer because we actually had dinner with the star of Totally Killer last month, which really did happen. We were at an award show, and they forgot to put us at a table, and so they had to find a place to put us. So they put us at the table of the movie The Last Showgirl, which she's in with Macaulay Culkin's wife, and then the screen.
Is that what happened?
I'm almost positive that's what, because remember, we showed up and we don't know where we're going to put you, so they had to find a place where there were seats. And so then they tracked us down 10 minutes later. You're at this table. We sit down at it, and it's the people from The Last Showgirl and the screenwriter for Dune Part Two. We didn't even know that. We're sitting there, and there's a guy there. I was like, who's this guy? And then they go, and the winner for the screenplay for Dune Part Two. And so the guy that wrote Prometheus stands, the first good version of Prometheus before they rewrote it into what we got, stands up and walks up and was like, wait, I could have been talking to that guy this whole time. And he walks up, and it was crazy. So that's why I like Totally Killer more, because a year after I saw it, I sat at a table and did not talk to the star of the movie. But I didn't think this one was very much fun. I liked the genre, but I didn't think this one was as fun. She liked it more because she thought Totally Killer was obnoxious, but I thought this one was less fun. We have I'll Be Right There. This is like a small little dramedy. like about a mother getting older, and felt like a pilot to like a TV show. It was more like, and it was like a decent pilot. It was like you kind of interested enough and wanted to see where the characters were going, and then the credits rolled at the end of it. So it was like I dug it, but it like
not as a movie.
Yeah, like not as a movie. That's always the thing is there's a couple. We'll have another one kind of like this in a little bit, but like it wasn't that it was badly done. It wasn't that I wasn't invested in the characters. It just as a singular thing, a singular experience. Where do I want to be when the credits roll? This movie didn't get me there. It made me feel like I want to watch the rest of the TV show now. Last one, and then we'll take some comments because we're at we are technically behind, but we are almost there. 108, The Last Kumite. Now, this is a small budget film. It was actually crowdfunded, and it's essentially designed to be a niche film for people like myself that grew up walking the aisles of Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, in particular the martial arts section. Which that was, what was I doing in 1999? What was I doing in 2002? I was at Hollywood Video, walking the aisles trying to pick which obscure martial arts movie I was gonna check out. And this is an homage to all of those films. You can just see the poster for it, and it's very clearly Bloodsport and a kickboxer with the rope gloves, tournament fighter. You know, Billy Blanks is in there, and Cynthia Rothrock. All these people that were in those movies that I used to watch all the time are in it. And a fun thing, a YouTuber that I watch pretty frequently and friends with on YouTube, Viking Samurai, that he loves Van Damme movies and Seagal, all those movies I grew up watching, like he covers those. And so like I watch his stuff, and he's a martial artist, and like he can do the Van Damme split kick, like he's in tremendous shape. He's in this movie, and he does the Van Damme split kick in this movie. So it's very much a niche film. It's not one that like I thought this is fantastic. I can't say that about the movie, but as someone that liked those movies, it was cool that we got another one. It's cool that we got like this homage film. Like what I said about the Mean Girls movie as a negative, I'll say as a positive here. This is like the bar band cover of a bunch of movies. Like it's like if they did like a medley of a bunch of my like these movies that I watched back in the day. It was like, oh, that was cool. I'm glad they did that. That's what The Last Kumite was like. It's not going to win new fans to the genre, but if that's your thing, check it out. It's pretty cool. All right, Argyle. This is one we were very excited about. Looked like a spy movie, romancing the stone, and superficially is very entertaining, but it was like a movie that was too clever. Like you actually were so excited. You actually got the book.
Yeah.
She got the book, read the book, and she's like, I don't know how this is what the movie is. And then Matthew Vaughn is like, actually, so the book is book 1 and the movie's book 4, and then the post-credit scene ties it into the Kingsman. It's like a movie that was way too clever for its own good and way too silly for its own good. Did you have any quick thoughts on that one? You actually can chime in on this one.
Well, the books...
As someone that knows how to read, you can provide us an informed opinion.
Well, the books that you read, like Argyle the book, is one of the books that the author in the movie wrote. So it's like this super meta, bizarre... Like, the book is not the movie at all. It's the fictional writer's work, which is very confusing and not at all what I was expecting when I got the book.
Exactly. It's just like this idea that if they pulled it off and the movie was really good, we'd be like, "That's brilliant! This is amazing!" But that's one of the things with when you swing for the fences, when you do something really wild and crazy, you take a big gamble. Sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it really does not. This time,
it took a little too many risks for me.
Yeah. So, oops. Okie dokie. 106, Apartment 7A. This is a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. And on the one hand, it was a lot better than I expected. Like, it had a lot more of an artistic flair. The lead actress's performance is really great. The problem it has is that because it's a prequel that, ends right where Rosemary's Baby picks up, and it's kind of doing the same thing. It's the same plot. It feels like there's no tension because you know everything that's going to happen and where it's going to end. So you got to go. If you're in the mood for Rosemary's Baby, you would just watch Rosemary's Baby. This doesn't like really even answer all that many questions. It's just that same thing happens, but with the ending that we know is already going to happen if you've seen the classic original. 105, Immaculate. This is the Sydney Sweeney pregnant nun movie. There's two of the same movie came out this year. There's Immaculate and The First Omen. I thought The First Omen was quite a bit better. Of course, this has the better memory. I saw it at its world premiere at South by Southwest. I was in the front row. Sydney Sweeney was in the room. So she's now also my close personal friend. I've never spoken to her, but we have been within 10 feet of each other, which is basically the same thing as being best friends with someone. I'm not really into nun horror movies, so the first half of this movie is like, okay, it's like, yeah, Sydney Sweeney is a nun. Okay. And then the back half where it started like unpacking what's going on and the weird wacky stuff happened, pretty cool. The thing that you remember about this movie is the last 2 minutes. Like crazy, like, whoa, they went for it and it's a single take. And there's some people that say she can't act or she's too monotone or whatever. Maybe she's got limitations. She just watched the last 2 minutes of this movie. She certainly can act with the right moments and the right points in time. She has a bag of tricks beyond that which people normally say she has become famous for. You can take a guess at what I'm implying there. 104, Ricky Stenicki. We don't get a lot of comedies anymore, original comedies. This is original comedy. Zac Efron, John Cena. One of those movies that it made me laugh. It did its job in that regard. I think it tried to have it both ways of being like super raunchy and people behaving badly comedy while also being like really sweet and sentimental. And I don't think it earned all of that. Also a movie that I don't remember all that well. Like what was it? Like I remember being like, it did make me laugh, but I was like, I don't know if this fully works. You went to see this one with me, didn't you?
Ricky Stenicki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about it?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you remember? What do you remember based on that noise? What do you remember?
I just don't remember liking it that much. Like, I don't know. There
How dare you? This is my 104th favorite movie of the year. How could you...
That is not what this list is.
Well, I mean, it is my 104th favorite, but we're not at the part where they're favorites yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. Like whatever it was, I don't remember. Like it didn't kind of left a weird taste in your mouth.
It was really tacky, like in not a funny way, like in a. Ugh.
Yeah. Number 103. This is a tricky one. The Apprentice. So this is the Donald Trump movie that has two great performances in it of Sebastian Stan doing Donald Trump. At the beginning of it, you're like, this doesn't feel like Donald Trump, but the movie takes place over decades, and you watch Donald Trump become Donald Trump, and thus you're watching Stan become the character that is Donald Trump. And so then the mannerisms, the speech patterns, you see where that comes from and as it evolves. And so it's like, this is actually quite good. This is interesting the way you did that. And then I'm not as familiar with it as Jeremy, the other guy in it. Really good as well. But essentially, the movie plays as a villain origin story for Donald Trump. And it came out a month before an election. We all know what you're doing here. It's the sort of movie that I was like, I know what you're trying to do, but who's this for? Because if you're a big Trump person, you don't want to watch this movie because it's real obvious what the agenda is. And if you don't like Trump, you don't really want to watch a movie about Donald Trump. And so it's like this idea where you can see that they were trying to like, we don't like him. We want to like do something that highlights like why he is so bad and how bad he is. And here's these things he did in the 80s and real estate and how horrible he was to people. And I think the inherent problem somewhat with the film is that you're also watching it being like people that their grid is he's just a supervillain, and we're not seeing the humanity to him. We hate him, despise him, think he's did terrible things. That's not really the point. Is that he's still a human. And when you portray it as like this very simplistic narrative of he was a normal guy and then he met this one lawyer, Cohen, who turned him into a supervillain. We've all met humans before, and we know that life is more complicated than that. And there's more nuance to it than that. And so the whole thing kind of rings hollow. Great performances. It also does a really neat job of capturing the eras where the movie's taking place. Like it'll do like news broadcasts and things like that. And it feels like you're watching a 1980s news broadcast. There's things about it that I really enjoyed, but it's the sort of film that there's just such an agenda with the whole thing that it just didn't work for me as a whole. Yeah, you want to watch that tonight?
I'm telling you to move to the next movie.
Oh, gotcha, because I'm talking too long. There's a couple of these ones I didn't talk about in detail, but they're like conversation pieces. Other times I'm just bad at this. Stream at Wonder 102. This is a film from the producers of the Terrifier films. And basically the producer of the Terrifier films directed this movie. The guy that plays Art the Clown, David, is one of the killers in this movie. It has Daniel Harris in it. And the gore effects were done by Damien Leone, the director of the Terrifier films. So it's very much in that vein. I don't think it's as good as Terrifier 2 and 3. Maybe better than Terrifier 1. Cool kills. Fun concept about, like, people stay at this hotel and it turns out it's like a reality show for psychos as they're, like, watching killers come in. But it's, I think it's like 30 minutes too long. It's kind of like the Terrifier 2 problem, except without the stuff that really makes Terrifier 2 pop. 101, Hellboy the Crooked Man. I had some people tell me they thought this was one of the worst movies of the year, and I was like, I don't see that. I thought it was fine. This to me, like the one we talked about, but totally different sense, but this felt like a couple episodes of a Hellboy TV show that would be pretty good. But like episodes 7 and 8 of the season. It doesn't establish the world or Hellboy or what's going on. It just drops us into the middle of this mission on a train, and it's 2-part episode where he's on the train, he gets lost, then he has to like go into this church, and it just feels like 2 episodes of a TV show because it didn't have a big budget, but like I thought it kind of did this kind of investigation horror story pretty well. It's not super cinematic. So I think that's where some people I watch those Guillermo del Toro movies and this doesn't have the size to it. Like, that's fair. But, anyway. 100, Mr. Crockett. This is another one I saw at its world premiere at Fantastic Fest. This, to me, felt like a fun character, central kind of concept about, essentially, if you did like a Mr. Rogers type character that would come to life and kidnap kids and kill their parents. There's something like just horrifying in that. And like the character is like the actor is super fun and doing the song and the dance. And they can turn and like you can immediately like in the fun parts, you can see the creepiness. And if you watch those old shows, you can see the creepy and like what if you played that out? The problem is this feels like the first draft. They had the idea that's fun. The script that pulls it together has way too many things that needed to be ironed out. 99, Salem's Lot. This, I haven't seen the old Tobe Hooper miniseries version of it. Haven't read the book, so this was my only exposure to Salem's Lot. And I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was great. It's from a guy, one of the guys that worked heavily on like the It movies, and you can feel that a little bit of that flavor in here. It's intentionally a little bit campy, so I thought it was kind of fun, kind of familiar. Watched it just a couple months ago, and I don't have a ton to say about it. 98, Elevation. This is an A Quiet Place-esque thriller, even from some of the producers of A Quiet Place, starring Anthony Mackie, where essentially the creatures that invade the Earth and lead to the post-apocalyptic sort of scenario can only go to a certain elevation. And so if you dip below the elevation, they can attack you. So these people from Denver, Boulder, fled up into the Rockies, and they have to, like, when they run out of supplies, have to go down into Denver to get the supplies for the city. So I think it's like, it's a solid one of those movies. It's not breaking any new ground. If you're like, oh, I've already seen this, I've seen A Quiet Place, I don't need another gimmick post-apocalyptic creature movie, it's not for you. But if you like A Quiet Place and want more, like, in that vein, it's worth checking out. It's a good one. In particular, if you're familiar with Denver and Boulder in the Rockies, then there's like a nice familiarity to the environment to it. But fun cast, like nothing groundbreaking, but like a solid genre film. 97, Mufasa. Total mixed bag film here. a lot of the stuff with Mufasa's rise, I thought really worked. That like it's able to like find some of the moments and swell the emotions as like he becomes this becomes the Lion King. And, you know, it's a little bit of a get the band together movie, not get them back together because they're getting together for the first time. And so you're meeting some of these characters along the way and like it works really nicely. But I didn't think any of the songs were memorable. I didn't like any of the songs, not even, you know, We Could Have Been Brothers or It's Good to Have a Brother, whatever that song is. Didn't care. Scar's fall, I thought was handled horribly. So they change it up so they're not actually brothers. And so then to do this whole journey with Scar, and essentially his entire personality changes with one scene. And that the infraction, the offense is not nearly big enough to justify how big of a change it is, where it's like a puppy love crush. And that like it's that sort of thing. It's literally that. It's a high school crush, not any sort of epic love. There was but the betrayal of Mufasa. It was nothing like that. And it's like they're trying to protect the dignity of Mufasa, and in doing so, make it so you have made it so you have undermined Scar's fall entirely. And it's bookended with these the stories being told to Simba's daughter. And Timon and Pumbaa are there, and it's like they cut away every 5 minutes to have them do fart jokes. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, I know you want to remind us of this character. What are you doing? 96 Roadhouse. This, I wanted to like this one more. Like a throwback action movie directed by Doug Liman. They tried to do some different stuff with the action. So this is a totally watchable movie for me. Like, throw it on. I'd be totally fine to watch because I like these kind of movies. I just kind of wanted more from it. And they did this stuff with the action where they did these long takes where like super wide angle lens and they like zoom in close. And so the very visceral action where you feel like you're right there. But also it's like they did CGI to make the shots connect because you're so close you can see the fist hit a face and they're not actually having people punch Jake Gyllenhaal in the face. In which case, like it all feels off. It feels CGI. It's like, man, I wish this worked because it's almost really cool, but not quite. 95 Red One. This is another one a lot of people had as their worst of the year. And that's just what, like, for me, from here on out, like with Mufasa, Roadhouse, there's a bunch of these big blockbusters that they're able to deliver something enjoyable. They're watchable. They're big, slick productions, but there's also a side to them that just feels like they never quite fully had that spark to them. And like Red One just feels like a movie focused grouped to be for the broadest possible audience. That, you know, it's kind of kiddie and there's like evil snowmen and there's creatures and there's action and there's quips and there's globetrotting and Santa Claus. There's all of the different things, but great at none of them. There's nothing, like there's no trying to be such a 4-quadrant blockbuster. It's for men, for women, old, grown-ups, kids, everybody. But no one.
Bad language for teenagers.
Yeah, bad language for teenagers. Like just like a little bit of a rebellious streak, but not too rebellious. But nothing that makes it pop. Nothing that's interesting. Like I said before, important detail. We were trying to watch Violent Night a week ago. Mm-hmm. And I swore I had. I was like, where is it? I couldn't find it. I found it. So we can actually watch that tonight. A little bit late, but we can watch that tonight. It's right over there. Oh. But why do I say all that? Like the premise, Santa Claus gets captured and some trackers have to track him down. You do that like Violent Night, an R-rated action version of that's designed for 43-year-old me. That's probably in my top 20 because it's just like such a fun premise. It's like Taken, Men in Black for grown-up, but with Santa Claus. Cool. But as soon as you make the generic blockbuster version, it just has no flavor to it. Like, I like my food spicy. Do the spicy foods version of this one, not the overproduced blockbuster with a $250 million budget. Like, I just don't... That's not interesting to me. I've seen this blockbuster. It's literally from the screenwriter of a bunch of the Fast and the Furious movies. And that's what it feels like. 100 Yards. This is a kung fu film, period piece kung fu film. Saw it at Fantastic Fest in 2013. It came out just a couple months ago. It's if you're like in the mood for a kung fu flick, it's good. It's enjoyable. I didn't think it was great. hence why it's placement. But it's good. If you're in the mood for a kung fu flick, a new kung fu movie, maybe check this one out. I didn't think it had anything with the choreography that made it like cut through, like, oh, I haven't seen anything like this, or they did this with the camera work, or this with the fights, and it wasn't anything specific, but it was all really well done. But just didn't cut through to make it higher on the list. 93, Moana 2, totally fine follow-up. But when you're Disney and you're making a sequel to a beloved film, good enough is not good enough. It just should be better. I can't say it's bad. I don't think it was bad. But it's not good enough. Good enough is not good enough. And it's a movie, we know the backstory. This was supposed to be a Disney Plus show. And then Strange World and Wish bombed. And they went, oh crap, we need a big hit. We need a safe bet. And so then they upgraded this TV show into a movie. And that's what we got. That's what it kind of feels like. It's kind of episodic the way it's structured. And it doesn't, like, it does have big stakes, but it feels like it's forcing the big stakes. So that's what's underwhelming about it. Like, it's not, in and of itself, it's fine. But it shouldn't just be fine. It should be better than that. Exact same lines, Wolves. This is the George Clooney, Brad Pitt, little cleaner movie. Kind of returning to the vibe of the Oceans movies. So if you're my age, the Oceans movies, Oceans 11 really, but then 12 and 13 as well, just like so cool, like massive hit films. Everybody loved them. And so the two stars of Oceans 11 doing something like that again with the banter, the coolness, and it's from the director of the last three Spider-Man movies. Huge budget. And the movie's just not as good as it should be. It's fine. Again, it didn't bother me. I wasn't mad at it. It's not like I watched it and I had a list of things I had issues with, but it didn't do anything beyond, oh, it was cool to see them in this genre together again. It was cool to see them doing their thing again. There's nothing beyond that. Once again, good enough is not good enough. 91. Oh, did you have any thoughts on Wolves? We watched that one together.
Underwhelming.
Yeah. In particular, when you spend so much money on it, like, it feels like there should be something about it that cuts through, and nothing about it cuts through beyond, hey, it's George Clooney and Brad Pitt being cool and bantering again. 91, Goat. This is one of the Indian films I saw this year. I wanted to see one every month. It didn't plan out. This one had VJ from Leo in split roles. It was... there was a lot of things I liked about it, and a lot of things I was not crazy about with it. And I think it ended on a note that I found distasteful. That if it hadn't done that, it probably would have shot up like 20 spots on the list, because it's kind of, big spy, twist, turns, VJ and stool roles, and it like where it plays everything out with the twist, turns, reveals who's everyone's side is everyone on. Where it ends, I just didn't work for me, unfortunately. That would could have boosted it up on here. Number 90, and then we'll take a break for a little bit, even though we are 11 minutes off pace. We'll try and go real quick.
That's way better than we did last year. You're doing good.
We're all things considered, like, I am 11 minutes behind where my notes say that I should be at this moment in time. But Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Simply put, it's a lot better. Last year, I believe Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was my pick for the worst movie of the year. Just such a cynical film that it just felt like they were exploiting copyright law to put a very bad Winnie the Pooh skin on a very generic slasher. And Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, not a great film. Still low budget, but bigger budget. And more importantly, this is what the first movie should have been, where it kind of does dive into the lore. It does something with the Winnie the Pooh concept. It's a better slasher, and it's a better horror adaptation of Winnie the Pooh. They brought in a better writer. They had more money. So just everything was an improvement. I wish that it had a little bit more there's a part in it where Winnie the Pooh goes, oh, bother. And it's hilarious. And you go, we should have had one of those every 10 minutes. We should have, don't make it an all-out comedy. Don't go too far with it. But having those self-aware Winnie the Pooh-isms, a little bit more of that. Maybe if you use more of the wordplay or the meta humor that's in Winnie the Pooh. A little bit, some of that. once again, you could have pumped yourself up, but immediately massive improvement over the previous film. And that's low-key one of the best character arcs in all of film history. Number 89, Maxine. This was just disappointing. So, it's just here's these lists get really tricky because the way it played out, I've got Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, and Maxine right above it. Now, I went into Maxine very excited to see Maxine. I was disappointed, and I went into Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, literally following up the worst movie of last year. And they end up like this. I think that Maxine's much better made, but it also left me more disappointed. I thought it kind of lacked some tension in the kills. I thought it's so obvious what the twist is going to be. Like literally opening scene of the movie before the plot kicked in, I was like, oh, well, I'm not a moron, so I know where this is headed, and I was right. And then the third act, I think, got wacky. But the vibe is great. The aesthetic is great. A bunch of the performances are great. So it's just frustrating. Young Lion of the West. This is a movie that was written and stars my friend Joey Sasso. If you've seen The Circle on Netflix.
Clarify, he is actually your friend.
Yeah. Hey, what are you suggesting? Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell aren't my friend? I'm like, how dare you? How dare you? I actually do know Joey Sasso. Through he is the way it was pretty wild. See, everything's a rabbit trail, but he subscribed to Cody Leach's channel because he loves horror movies, and he worked for Blumhouse for a while, so he just started following Cody, and then we did MegaCon this year together, and so he's hung out for a whole week. It was fascinating because we're like hanging out there, and then girls would walk by and see him, and they'd be like, "Are you Joey Sasso?" There's literally one point in time where there was a girl like standing, like almost like crying, like just like, "Is that him?" And she like wanted to talk to him, but she was scared. And I was like, "Hey, like he would love to talk with you. If you want me to introduce you," she's like, he would love to talk. No reason to be nervous. He loves to talk to people. But is there like actually friends with him? And he made a movie, and so it's the comparison I'm going to make is always a little bit tricky because it's such a loaded term. But it's very much like 1970s Scorsese. That's very loaded because Martin Scorsese, widely regarded as one of the best directors of the last 50 years. So much of that was his work in the 70s. So you say that and immediately like, oh, you're saying it's one of the best films. Like that's genre-wise. It's in that vibe of movies that kind of put you in a time and a place with these broken characters where you kind of watch their rise and their fall. It's that flavor kind of in this modern setting. In exploring that. So, they literally made it for $13,000. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here. Micro budgeted films. You have to go in knowing that, but you want something kind of like a support true indie film with a bit of that Scorsese flavor. Maybe give it a try. Blink Twice. This is the Zoe Kravitz film. There's a lot of things I loved about this film. Like directorially, she did some very cool stuff with the way that she filmed the first half of the film when they get to the island and they're trying to be disorienting. And it does a bunch of stuff where when you're filming sequences, they talk about not breaking the line. And there's like when you have a shot and you have two characters talking, you don't want to put the camera on the other side of the line because the human eye, when you're watching it, it feels like you're disoriented. Like the person should be on the other side. And so if the camera goes too far across the line, the character, when you cut to them, is on the wrong side. And the movie intentionally does that. So two people be talking, and the camera's put in the wrong spot. And so it's just disorienting. And you're like, what is happening here? And they'll show characters running during the day, and then it'll cut to them doing the same run at nighttime. Very cool disorienting stuff. When it gets into its actual message and the answers, I felt it kind of lost itself. Like it went too far. And the note that it ends on, I don't know what the movie was trying to say with the note that it chose to end on with the final scene. So a bunch of really cool stuff. I'm interested in what she does next. I didn't fully like what she did with that film. Trap, M. Night Shyamalan, classic Shyamalan, fun premise, fun performance from Josh Hartnett about a psycho taking his daughter to a music concert of M. Night Shyamalan's other daughter. So he's got a couple daughters. One of them is a singer and the other one is a director. And the one that's a director has shot the music videos of the one that's a singer, and that singer's in this movie. And the one that's a director put out a movie 2 months before this. But the movie itself feels like it's duct taped together with improbabilities of convoluted explanations. And so it's the kind of movie that there's something in there that I really enjoyed. And it's fascinating. There are people that adore Trap, and there's people that hate Trap. And it's which side do you latch onto? Like the fun side of the Psycho and the Josh's performance, or the fact that the logic doesn't really hold up. 85, One More Shot. Now, this is a funny one because One More Shot is a sequel to One Shot. This is a single take action movie from Scott Adkins. That's the star of the movie, not the director. And I like Scott Adkins. He's one of our leading direct-to-video actors, action actors. I like those sorts of things. So as soon as you do a single take movie, it just kind of cuts through a little bit. And it's set in an airport. It kind of feels... It's almost the plot of several actual episodes of the show 24, except with Scott Adkins, who's better at action than what Kiefer Sutherland on television can do, though it is a low budget film trying to do a single take. So it's like you can see that where the cuts are at. The choreography can get a little bit sloppy because they're doing it in a single take, and that's really tough to do when you're doing fancy advanced stuff. But like, I got what I wanted out of this movie. The funny part though is I never saw the first one. So the first one, single shot action movie, this one picks up where that one ended. I never saw that movie. So I actually haven't finished it, but I went back to rewatch it. I still haven't finished it, but I normally don't do that. Now the movie Jennifer wanted me to talk about, 84, Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. This was the first of 3 parts in a direct-to-video adaptation of Crisis on Infinite Earths. What are you, like, listening to something over there?
No.
What's that noise?
I don't know.
I'm here. I might be going crazy, like having an auditory hallucination. I'm hearing like a noise coming from right over. Maybe it's the dog snoring.
Dog?
Is the dog, like, you can see his little dog face right there. That's him right there. I think maybe he's like snoring and something. I'm hearing out of the corner of my ear. The corner of my ear. Many phrases. Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, I dug it. They did something interesting with the Flash and the way that they handle what they're doing with him with time was, I thought, really interesting. Not interesting enough that I watched parts 1 and 2, but there's some stuff in there that was like, that's a fascinating way to do a story and to do a love story inside of this crisis, and but I guess it wasn't captivating enough for me to keep watching. 83, Fighter. This is essentially Bollywood's version of Top Gun, and it was fine. It was fun. Like, it was just like enjoyable as a alternate take on Top Gun. It wasn't great, but it worked well enough. I don't have much to say there. Did you have thoughts on Fighter?
I liked it.
She liked it. There you go. 82, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. This one, I wish I could put it higher on the list. It's Guy Ritchie. I really enjoy Guy Ritchie. I think he's had a really good run as of recently. It stars Henry Cavill and Alan Richardson and Henry Golding as these guys killing Nazis.
I haven't seen that one yet.
I know. Like, another one. Maybe do a double feature tonight.
With what?
Violent Night and Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. You also didn't watch the one from last year with Hugh Grant and...
I know.
Do
a
you
double feature with that. I don't want to watch Violent Night.
Yeah, well, triple feature with Violent Night, whatever that, Jason Statham, Josh Hartnett, Hugh Grant one, and Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. The problem here is that they're in God mode. They're like, there's just no tension in the action set pieces. It's just like Henry walks in and mows everybody down. And it's the sort of thing that just like, it's really fun once. And then you realize that, oh, this is what a movie looks like that has no tension. And it lost it. Number 81, I thought about putting this at number 1, Subservience. This is the movie where Megan Fox is not a sex robot. But she kind of is at the same time. So it's a little bit like a Megan for grown-ups. That the robot is not a little girl. It is Megan Fox. And the guy bought the Megan Fox model of the robot. And it gets jealous of the wife and really likes the husband. So it's from I think it's the same director that did this movie a couple years back. There's a thriller with Megan Fox as well, where they're like out at a cabin. I thought that was well done. It's just the direct-to-video thriller. It's on Netflix right now. A bunch of people thought this one was awful. Obviously, I didn't. Just some of those mid-budget thrillers, they just hit the right spot for me. I just like that they're not trying to be the biggest movie. It's just tension in this small environment. I dug it. You too? Is that also one of your favorites?
No, it was fine, but
What did you not like about it?
go to the next movie.
What's the problem? Yeah, when I tried to order one of those robots, she got so mad at me, and I don't know why. House of Spoils, right? Is that right? House of Spoils. This is the Bear plus Hocus Pocus, where this former chef. There are people like anything with a chef, they call it the Bear. Like, no, it actually is kind of like the Bear, because it's about a chef from a high-end restaurant that goes off to start her own thing and struggles to get it launched. That's very much like the Bear. She has PTSD from her former job. That's like the Bear. But it's a witch story about, like, she ends up at this weird place with, like a witch backstory. It's not as good as it should be, but I found it interesting enough. Like, there's this odd blend of genres. I hadn't seen anything quite like it before. It doesn't fully come together. The recipe didn't quite work, but I dug what they were going for. Did you see what I did there?
I didn't. I'm sorry, I was reading.
What?
Reference.
I did a recipe pun. I thought you'd really like that.
Nice.
79, Godzilla X Kong: A New Empire. I kind of forgot this came out. That's kind of why it's so low on the list. Like, I don't remember what I scored it. I remember being like having a good time in the theater, but it's like a new Godzilla vs. Kong movie came out this year, and it's like, oh yeah, that was a thing, wasn't it?
It was weird. Didn't it have all the monkeys in the middle of the earth or
Yeah,
something?
there's evil monkeys in the middle of the earth, and
Yeah.
they're like backstory and
like all these weapons.
yeah, and
Yeah.
but it's like all this stuff that was like, oh yeah, but a Godzilla movie shouldn't be like, oh yeah, that came out. And that's what I feel like a lot of these blockbusters kind of fall into that category. That $200 million, big franchise, big important stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, kind of like that. 78, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. Now I enjoyed this film, but it's another one of those, oh yeah, we got another Ghostbusters movie this year, didn't we? And coming off Afterlife, which I really enjoyed, like I think it's really good, this just didn't live up to that. And they said it was going to be like the real Ghostbusters, and it kind of is. Like, I liked that it's the it's the only Ghostbusters movie where the Ghostbusters don't go into business during the film. They're already in business, and they're in New York City, and it feels like, we're doing like the little episodes and the big story kicks in. I dug all of that, but it just felt so scattershot, and the script was underdeveloped, and it felt like it's pretty.
Too many people.
There are too many characters, and like that. There was a side to that you liked, that we're doing the old cast are there and they're prominent, but we also have the new cast. But then we also bring in Kumail Nanjiani, who's like really involved in the plot, and then there's like the ghost relationship, wherever that was. Like, just it's so many different things kind of happening, and also pretty clearly there was stuff that was reworked and cut. Like, you can see, like, the posters have them in these orange jackets, and they don't wear the orange jackets in the movie. 77, Arcadian. This is the other A Quiet Place-esque movie that came out. This one has Nicolas Cage and very cool creature designs. Once again, if you like A Quiet Place, that genre, and you want more, check out Arcadian. Especially if you like Nicolas Cage. Just another one of these kind of slight gimmicks on post-apocalypse creatures, families trying to make it, that sort of stuff. Maybe give it a vibe. Give it a vibe. Making up a phrase. Give it a vibe. 76, Infested. This is a movie where a very rapidly reproducing spider gets released in an apartment complex.
Ugh.
And everyone, they're desperately trying to survive as the spiders keep spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading. And then they basically get trapped in the building.
Did Vincent watch that one?
No. I saw this one at Overlook. So no Vincent for this one.
I can't imagine he'd watch that one.
The big thing that was cool about it, like the camera work was really well done. So much so that the person that directed this was hired to do one of the next Evil Dead movies. There's 2 different Evil Dead movies in the works, and this person is directing one of them. So if you like spider movies and are interested in the Evil Dead franchise, check out this one. I think it's French Canadian. It's definitely in Frenchy. I'm doing really well over here. But which French, I'm not sure. Crumb Catcher. This is what I saw at the Fantastic Fest 2023. Just a quirky thriller. Like about 2 people get married and they go off on their honeymoon, and this guy follows them to where they're at for their honeymoon to try and sell them a crumb catcher for his business model. And he's a really pushy salesman. And so...
Is this real?
It's called the crumb catcher because this guy's trying to sell a crumb catcher, and then it keeps like when the wife the wife of the salesman discovers that they told him no, like, hey, we're on our honeymoon, please leave. Then she gets like offended, and it just keeps escalating. It's crazier. This very weird thriller about a crumb catcher salesman. So he's like, imagine you make some bread and some sandwiches, and there's crumbs everywhere. The Crumb Catcher.
It's so high on your list, it sounds dreadful.
What? Quadruple feature. We'll watch
No.
Gentlemanly
No,
Warfare.
I'm not signing up for this.
What?
No.
You don't want to watch The Crumb Catcher?
I don't want a quadruple feature.
So once again, like this is what, like when you go to when people say there's no original movies anymore, they're referring to big blockbusters, big Hollywood movies. That there's too many sequels and stuff. And if you go to film festivals, you find these weird movies that she sees it and she hears about it and she goes, I would never watch that. And then someone else goes, a crazy murderous thriller about a crumb catcher salesman? I would love to see that. Like you discover these weird niche things and you go, I don't want to watch the Spider movie. And someone else goes, that sounds really cool. I want to check that out. That's kind of one of the appeals of getting to do what I do. I get to see all of these little niche things, and some of them I go, Dogman, yikes! What was that? That's not for me. And then I watched Crumb Catcher, and I went, that's kind of cool. 74, My Hero Academia. You're next.
There it is. I was asking for that in the comments.
Who was Chloe?
No,
Chloe's asking.
not in the comments.
Chloe's in the comment section. Wow, she's
I'll
watching.
find the person.
Chloe's
Keep
excited
talking.
to watch my videos.
She's not in here. Go.
Chloe's not here.
No.
Oh no.
Oh my word.
Let me get a drink from my air canister.
Stop it.
Wait.
Go.
I just startled him. He was sleeping. I didn't do anything. Actually, he just woke up from it. And then the other one snapped at him because she's crazy. There are the dogs. There we go. See, liven things up. Getting my brain working again. I'm shot and we're not even halfway through. We're about halfway. But My Hero Academia, I've never seen the TV show. This was my introduction. I took my daughter because she's a big fan. I thought it worked well enough. I can't say I was like, man, well, I can't wait to check this out. Like, it wasn't anything like that, but I was like, hey, cool, I get it. We got to experience this together. I'm glad I got to take you, learn about the lore. Like, I could see that why this world of characters worked. It established a villain that made you go, that's messed up, and built to a crescendo nicely at the end with little humor throughout it and big action set pieces. I got it. Cuckoo. This is when I actually saw it 2 different film festivals months before it came out. I was at its world premiere at South by Southwest, and I saw it a month later at Overlook Film Festival. Another just kind of weird little quirky horror thriller about this family that moves in at this resort and something weird's going on. And has a nice sense of humor where the lead character can tell something's up and that Dan Stevens is a real creepy weirdo and he's really good at playing charismatic creeps. And she's like, this guy's weird. And she keeps calling out what the audience is thinking and keeps getting ignored by people. So it's a movie that I don't know that all the logic of whatever's going on ties together by the end of it, but an enjoyable ride. We'll pause right here. If you want to text Melissa, the next movie on the list is Baby Girl.
Yeah.
Number 72, Baby Girl. So this is a strong contender for my number one for the year.
Shut up.
This one gave really got like a nice spark of energy. It was like a Red Bull or a C4 Starburst plus some cocaine for our marriage. Oh, because I went and did the booger sugar downstairs.
Stop it. That's not even funny.
It's pretty funny.
It's not funny.
So, yeah, like we're trying to watch a movie with our neighbor. And she was said oh, I'd love to see the new Nicole Kidman movie. And we're like, I heard that and I was like, I think isn't that a little bit weird movie? She's like, no, I love Nicole Kidman. Let's watch the new Nicole Kidman movie. So we ended up, I had a pretty good idea this was a bad idea, but I assumed she had seen the trailer for the movie.
You also assumed I had seen the trailer.
I assumed, but because the two of them are like, oh, I love Nicole Kidman. I was like, I just assumed the movie that they were telling me they wanted to watch, I assumed they knew something about the movie. Something.
We did not.
And they did. They knew one thing. Nicole Kidman is in it. It's a movie. It has Nicole Kidman. So two different things. So we show up to watch this movie, and they are her husband, her neighbor's husband. She shows up and says he warned her really. So he also knew, was this is the movie the wives want to watch, as a group outing, Baby Girl. So we show up. And they're like, yeah, my husband was, and his name is Chandler, so it can be a little bit confusing in conversations with our neighbor about the whole situation, about who said what. Like last night, someone referred to Mr. Chandler, and my daughter goes yeah, it's Mr. Chandler. I was like, Karis, I'm Mr. Chandler. She goes, you're not Mr. Chandler. I was like, what do you think my last name is?
Back to the story.
Back to the story. We're going to spend an hour on Baby Girl.
No, we're not.
Our neighbor was concerned I hadn't reviewed this one. Well, if you don't know, Baby Girl is
it's not a movie to watch.
It's not
with
a movie
neighbor.
you watch with your neighbor or your mother or your sister. So, Baby Girl is about Nicole Kidman, who's this very successful girl boss, but not in the sense we normally use that. So she's the boss at her company, very successful, very well respected, but sexually frustrated. Her low-T beta male husband, Antonio Banderas, does not satisfy her. So the movie kicks off, and right out of the get-go is moaning. Lots of moaning. And then it goes from moaning straight into making it clear how unsatisfied she is by her man. And so an intern comes in at her company, and he's got cookies. Literal and metaphorical cookies. And he likes to satisfy.
Stop. Please. Too much.
And this woman that in most contexts has all the power and control, but she wants someone else to tell her what to do.
Oh my word.
Thus leading to this affair. She loves her husband and her family, but she has an itch that he can't scratch,
okay,
and she has found the intern to scratch that itch.
Enough.
What? Melissa said she wanted me to talk about the movie more.
Oh my word.
So it has some interesting things to actually explore about our wiring and desire and how conflicted we can be and things that we can be drawn towards and the taboos and what there's a lot of things. I'm just not really into affair movies. I don't find them romantic, sexy, or any of the ways. And this one, it led to so many hilarious comments to my wife, things that helped us, I think, on a marriage level.
Stop it.
Hilarious texts with our neighbors. He smashes a glass on the floor and he goes, clean it up, which I thought that was really good. And so I've started doing that in our kitchen, and our kids have started doing it too. And so there's just broken glass all over our house, and everyone is shouting, clean it up.
This is true.
But it's almost true. It's true in my head.
That's your heart, Sean.
It's my lungs. It's true in my lungs. And that I'll just set out glasses of milk and drink it. Drink it.
Okay.
What's up?
You're good. It's well covered, baby.
Melissa wanted me to cover this movie, and I'm doing my neighbor a solid. She babysits our kids frequently, and I'm doing her a solid.
Adam Does Movies is in the chat, and just in time for this lovely debacle.
Next time Adam and I are hanging out, I'm ordering a glass of milk for Adam, and then I'm going to smash the glass and tell him to clean it up.
Yikes.
Anyway, I'm just not really into these types of movies. Like, it's well made. It's the sort of movie, like, to me, a big part of placements on some of these, did they cut through? Did they do something I found interesting that actually distinguishes itself? This movie did something that got us talking. So it gets
We really do make jokes about it all the
like
time.
constantly. This is like dominates now our relationship with our neighbor. Our entire sense of humor is Baby Girl. And there's ideas in there that are interesting, but I think there's like a deviant side to Hollywood that that's a part of the deviant world I don't particularly love. Perhaps some of it because of my own childhood, my parents' marriage, and things there that traumatized me. But fantasizing about these things is not what I naturally do. There you go, Melissa. That's my gift, the New Year's gift to you. Speaking of New Year's, 71 Y2K. This is a horror comedy about the Y2K fiasco. Now, if you're young and don't know this, at the turn of the century, there was a lot of fear the world would end with Y2K. Some people fled to lake houses with rations and shotguns in case the world ended. Some people did that. Some of us thought, you can just you can put your computer clock to midnight, 1999, you can see what it does, and it doesn't go crazy. So what are we talking about? So this movie, basically, what if things did go crazy into this comedic, over-the-top version of it if the robots try to take over. And at the beginning, it does a little bit too much, do you remember this? Remember Blockbuster Video? Remember dial-up modems? Remember signing on to America Online? That's the first 30 minutes of the movie, and then it gets into the horror comedy, and I thought it was pretty good. That what it does with Fred Durst, best cameo of the year. 70 Werewolves. This I thought was like a solid little. It's designed to be a B movie. It's designed to be like this schlocky lower mid budget action film with werewolves. Overtly, they were trying to make The Purge with werewolves, even with Frank Grillo, and that's what this movie is. And to me, that was fun. Is it great? No, but it's not really even trying to be. It's just trying to be something a little bit fun, familiar, but with their own spin on it. My lady friend, she kind of dug it because it played around with the werewolf mythology a little bit differently, so pretty cool film. 69 New Life. This is a bit of a genre blender that's about kind of a disease that's spreading, and this girl is infected with it, and she's on the run, and you don't know exactly what's going on. What's her past? Why is she on the run? What is the nature of this disease? And there's a corporation that hires a tracker to track her down. And so it's like kind of a thriller with some paranoia, a little bit of mystery. And I don't want to say too much, but it pulls into some other genres where it kind of goes off in a kind of doesn't go wild, but it takes it off in much more kind of genre territory that's more fantastical with some stuff, not outrageous, but because I don't want to spoil it. That's where it's one of these movies. It's tough to promote it because to say what it really is, you have to spoil some stuff a little bit. I thought it was a nice little, mid-tier genre film, genre blender. Kalki 2898. I think this was my favorite of the Indian films that I saw this year, where it's like a Indian sci-fi epic, just pulling in a fantasy, sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, soaked in their culture. Some of it I don't have the point of reference and the context to be able to speak about it properly. And when I spoke about it in my review, I misspoke, so I'm even trying to avoid it. But there's a lot of stuff in there, just like fun stuff. Just wild sci-fi epic stuff, hero's journey with an Indian flavor to it. So it just familiar, but also different. Second half was better than the first half. I thought the first half was like twice as long as it needed to be. And then once the story kicked in at the halfway point, then I dug it. 67, Boy Kills World. This is a Bill Skarsgård, basic like live action cartoon, and where he doesn't speak, but you hear like his inner thoughts, and it's like he grew up, like the voice in his head comes from playing video games, and he's out for revenge. So it's very stylized. It's not like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, but it kind of has that let's tell a tale, but kind of put this comic book video game skin on it. It's like that, but for like a revenge story. And it's funny, like Bill Skarsgård had a really interesting year at the movies because he did this one. This is live action, highly stylized action revenge story. And then he does The Crow, super dark, depressing. It's tonally the opposite of Boy Kills World, and he is Nosferatu, the art house horror, and he's a fun actor. Like I love that he would do 3 such wildly different films that Crow doesn't really work, but he's trying things and he's not fitting into a single box. That's cool. But it does some twists towards the end that I didn't like all that much. That kind of spoiled it for me a little bit. But like, if you want a just wild live action cartoon, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, but with an R-rated, vicious side to it, Boy Kills World. 66, 1% Warrior. This is another one that I saw at Fantastic Fest 2023. Finally came out this year, and just it's kind of like Die Hard on an island with a guy that he's trying to make a movie. So he's there to shoot a movie, and he happens to go to this movie to scout locations, and he's trying to make the greatest martial arts epic and developing his own fighting style. And he's there trying to film when suddenly he ends up on an island with like drug deals going down, and ends up in the middle of this thing using this fighting style that he's developing. And so it just had a real specific style to the way the choreography was done. I saw this at the same one where I saw 100 Yards, the kung fu period piece kung fu film that I said it didn't have a distinct style. 1% Warrior might have a more familiar plot, but it cuts through because the fights were like, oh, the way that he punches, the fluidity, the speed, I haven't seen that before. And there's some cool action set pieces where they do drone shots, and you're like, I don't even know how you did that. Like, what did you add in, like these rails and CGI, or like what did you do there? Because that was cool. 65, Bike Riders. This is the one movie ever that I went to opening night with my mother and my aunt, my mom's sister. And my aunt is obsessed with Austin Butler. So this was her most anticipated film of the year. Also, my mom and aunt, of course, born in the 1950s, so a movie set in the 1960s. Perfect for, if you're my aunt, you're obsessed with Austin Butler, movie set in the 60s. This is her most anticipated. So I went to go see it overnight. The thing it does great is it puts you in a time and a place. And in that regard, it does that really well. On the story level, it felt like it's like the prequel to biker gangs turning to violence. It's like everything before they got really thrilling and exciting, and it ends with the part where things are turning really bad. And so as soon as that happens, then the movie ends. So it's like the prequel to the part that's really interesting. That's kind of the way the movie felt to me. That I enjoyed being in the world, but the story, I was like, it feels like this is the first half of that more interesting story of when it got wild. 64, Lisa Frankenstein. I actually watched this one right before I went to Zach Pope's wedding. One of my good YouTube friends, and I had a couple hours to kill before I was supposed to be at his wedding, so I went to go see this movie. It was actually directed by Robin Williams' daughter. It is a weird film. Very weird about this guy brought back to life by a tanning bed, and he's been dead for hundreds of years, and then she falls in love with him. It's a very odd, quirky, oddball film that, once again, we're talking about that idea of like having a flavor to it, a distinct vibe. There's a thing that they were passionate about, and that's what's in this movie that makes it cut through. That's what I dug about this one. You know, it maybe at times way too weird for me, but also I appreciated that it even would be too weird for me. 63, Code 8 Part 2. These are the sci-fi action films from the Amell cousins, Stephen Amell and then Robbie Amell, and where it's like that they have like superpowers, and there's like robots that are the police, and they're kind of in this underground world of crime. That like, just kind of the sort of movies that mid-tier little action films that you don't get in theaters all that much, and you know this was a Netflix original, and I just kind of enjoy them. Like, do they most memorable film? No, but did it hit the spot when I watched it? Yeah, like blending together superhero stuff, sci-fi stuff, underground crime stuff, all with Amells. I dug it. 62, Things Will Be Different. This was it's a time travel, time loop. It's a time bending story, but a very different sort of lore. That saw at the Overlook Film Festival, and it's like people use this time travel device to commit a crime in the past, and then they use the time travel at this house to use the house as a safe house in a different point in time. So no one's looking for them at this point in time. But then outside of when they're at in the timeline, they get stuck there at this house and they're not allowed to leave. It's tough to, like, so sometimes these smaller, like what makes for a movie that they give a big budget to is that it has an easy pitch. And a lot of times what you see at a film festival or the smaller stuff, it's really interesting and different, but it's not easy to explain it with a pitch. Therefore, it's not easy to market it. Therefore, the big studios don't want to make those movies because it's like, how do you get people to go see it if you can't pitch it, if you can't sell it with a trailer? And that's what this kind of felt like, because it's like a movie that's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And they're like stuck at this house and don't know how long they'll be there, and all this kind of grander time travel lore of the future and who's giving instructions and how does it work. But just different. Like, I like that kind of thing. 61, Aliens Expanded. This is a 4-hour-long documentary on the making of Aliens. It's from a group that they do a lot of these, and they crowdfund them, and then as they get an interview with Sigourney Weaver, then they'll do more crowdfunding and like, hey, we were able to get this, this, and this, and if we get more money, then we'll be able to get James Cameron, and each person they add, they kind of expand it, and by the end of it, you're doing a 4-hour-long documentary, and then there's like 30 minutes of credits because they'll list everyone that crowdfunded and stuff. So they're kind of fun to see. It's like designed for deep dives. So we got a new Alien movie this year, therefore I was doing a deep dive, so like I watched it, and even in my review, I use segments from it, and this is pretty cool. As someone that loves them, it's like, it's not, is it the greatest documentary of all time? No, it is entirely for Aliens fanatics. If Aliens is one of your favorite movies and you love behind the scenes stuff, it's must watch. All right, number 60 on the list. Whew. I'm gonna drink me Starburst before I dive into this one, because there's no way to not get in trouble on this next one. Number 60, Am I Racist? The one that when Jeremy Johns reviewed it, the internet tried to cancel him just for reviewing the movie and not roasting it. It's a film documentary that, because it was made by the Daily Wire, because of the provocative title, because it's from Matt Walsh, for obvious reasons, entirely fair reasons, it is a hot button polarizing issue. Just immediately, the movie itself, just like, it's a culture war before anyone had seen it. Like, it just always was that. And so one group of people, if you watch this, if you platform it, if you review it, how dare you? How dare you? You're supporting evil, the other side. And the other side If you don't review this movie, it's because you're a coward and you're support. Like, can we act normal? There's a side to it. It's fair to say that this one actually is part of a culture war. It's designed, the product itself, the film itself is designed to be that. Can we at least to some extent step outside of culture wars and be able to talk about things, some sort of objectivity or whatever? Like, everything doesn't have to be like a lash out loud fight. So it's tough to know where to place this one because it's just, no matter what you do, someone puts a target on yourself. But the movie's not what you would think it would be. It's not really even about racism and what is racism. It's about the racism experts that charge exorbitant amounts of money to tell people that they're racist. And you kind of go, is that really helping? So the role of Matt Walsh's role in the film is trying to make them look stupid. So you're watching it and you know that they're editing to the pieces that make them sound really ridiculous. And a lot of what they say is just kind of flat out ridiculous. There's not a way to like make some of this stuff not crazy. And some of the people they interview are very, like, they say things and you're just like, you're tearing the country apart with what you're doing. Like, you're making things worse. This is not the answer with what you're doing. Problem also with the product is that you have someone that is so smug, self-assured, and is like, it's a movie designed to preach to the choir, the already converted. It's designed to be provocative. It's designed to be offensive. So people that already think the way that Matt Walsh thinks go, yeah, there it is. And everyone else aren't even going to watch it. It's just, he's so off-putting. He's so abrasive. He's so unpleasant. And it's not in any way designed to make it so that we're actually having a conversation about what are the merits of what the racism industry is providing. It doesn't do that at all. And that's where I think it misses. Like, it's designed to get the people that want to be laugh at this to buy a ticket. It's not doing the version that actually has the hard conversation. It's taking easy jabs at very ridiculous statements about dressing up as Moana and things like that. So did it make me laugh? Sometimes it did. Other times it was just, certain segments were just cringe and physical comedy. Were there useful observations? Yes. Were the observations packaged in a way that I think was the best? No. They were packaged in the way that would sell the most tickets to people that followed conservative media. So, I don't know. Make of all of that what you will. It's no way to talk about that one without getting yourself in trouble. 59, Your Monster. This was a fun spin on Beauty and the Beast that kind of lost me in the last 20 minutes, but the rest of it I thought was kind of a charming little quirky take on things. I thought I think it unwisely played around with whether things were real or not in a way that made for an unsatisfying conclusion and got too dark. In particular where it ended, I was like, I don't feel like this fits with everything else. But I enjoyed how charming the rest of this movie was. Oh, yeah, what?
No, it was an accident.
Oh, well, it's just like you wanted to chime in. Did you want to chime in on Am I Racist?
I have not seen it.
58, Kung Fu Panda 4. A lot of people were super disappointed by this one or said it was terrible. I didn't grow up on the Kung Fu Panda movies. I didn't have any emotional investment on it. We did watch the first one last night so that right at midnight he would go skadoosh. And because of that, we're having an amazing year. Mm-hmm. We kicked things off, started Top Gun Maverick at midnight at 12:15. So I'm running on a lot of sleep. So I had an amazing year because we watched Kung Fu Panda last night. But as for Kung Fu Panda 4, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I got what I wanted. I didn't think it was as good. It was not great, but I also don't have any emotional investment in Kung Fu Panda to be, this didn't live up to my childhood or anything like that, or whatever other people were disappointed by. I just didn't go in with any of those expectations. I saw an enjoyable little film. That worked for me. 57, Monkey Man. This, according to mine, I'm going to catch up.
Go for it.
We're going to be ahead of schedule in just a few minutes if I keep this up.
Well, I have to keep saying
If we want to toss to take questions real quick.
Stop it.
Monkey Man. This stars Dev Patel, who also co-wrote and directed the film, and is kind of. This is a bad comparison. I don't like this comparison, but it's the one that a lot of people have used. It's kind of like his version of John Wick, that calls to mind certain expectations that the movie does not deliver on, but certain expectations that it does. It's an action movie. He wears suits, very stylized. He goes to nightclubs and stuff. Imagery that is very reminiscent of John Wick. The John Wick movies, however, kind of have this like constant pace to them. And this is more of like a slow build, explosion, big action set piece. It lasts a long time. Slow, rebuild, build back up to it, payoff. So they're paced very differently, and it brings in a lot of Indian culture into it and lore. And so it's if you think of it as just a John Wick knockoff, that is a bad read on the movie. It's a solid directorial debut that I think shows promise of what his career can look like. I think you could have used some fine tuning on the script, but also like even the way that it, like the action is very unrefined at the beginning, and by the end of it, it's much sharper and cleaner as the character grows and evolves. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there that I enjoyed. 56, Beetlejuice. I wasn't really excited for this one. I'm not a big Tim Burton person. My main exposure to Beetlejuice is actually the animated show from the 90s. I watched that a lot. I've seen the movie Beetlejuice many times too, but I watched the cartoon pretty regularly back in the 90s when I was growing up. But the big thing I was excited about with this one was my kids were excited for it. My wife's not into this sort of thing at all. She didn't want to see it. But my kids, like, kind of discovered something a little bit spooky. They were interested, and I like that. I like that there's things that they're into that aren't coming from me. I'm not like, hey, let's see this. I like to spark whatever their interests are in. And, they're a lot more into Nightmare Before Christmas than I am. And they haven't watched Wednesday yet, but we'll probably watch Wednesday season 1 whenever season 2 comes out. And they're like into this sort of thing. I like that. So, I went to go see it with them, and it was a good time at the movies. Like, I had fun with it. I didn't need it to be the better, and I don't have, because I'm not like in love with the original one, I didn't have it way up here that it had to live up to something. It was like, did it feel like it recaptured some of the magic? And I thought it did. And there's too many plot lines, so certain ones get rushed, certain ones get sidelined, but at the same time, I thought it did a better job of having a central plot. Something that the original one don't really have that. Like, it's like we're trying to get them out of our house, but this has a more clear goal, a couple different goals, maybe too many goals, but so I dug that about the film. 55, Amelia Perez. This is another one. It's tough to know where to place it on the list because it's such an unusual film. It's very much a prestige film with a bunch of awards consideration. There are a bunch of people throwing in their top 10 of the year. And so, I watched it having not seen a trailer. I didn't know what we were watching, that it was on some of these best of the year lists. I was doing my due diligence in prep for my awards voting and stuff like that. And so checking out some of the ones I had access to. This was on a lot of lists. So we checked it out, and all I read in the paragraph was like drug cartel. I was like, oh, drug cartel. Well, man, what's this going to be? Well, it's not at all what I thought it was going to be. So essentially, it's about Zoe Saldana, who's a lawyer trying to help a drug cartel boss disappear and start over in life. Right? Okay, so a cool drug thriller kind of movie. No, that's not the way this works out. So the request is to help the drug cartel boss transition. They're trans, and they want to start over their life as this new person. And then there's a time jump, and the character comes back years later, they were the father and they're trying to reconnect with their kids now as a woman. It's kind of interesting. That's different. I haven't seen that. By the way, it's a musical. So I don't know what I'm watching. And there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. I've never seen a musical done like this before, where they'll be doing a dialogue scene, and then Zoe Saldana starts being very rhythmic with how she's talking, and then it turns into singing, and then we're in a dance number. Even the way the choreography was done, like the way that the movement, it's very different. And there's a lot of ways it'll be kind of like we're in normal mode, and then the camera will pan over, and then we're like in dream musical mode, and we pan back, and we're back into dialogue. Really cool stuff in there. There's some interesting ideas with what it does with the narrative of this drug cartel boss and their regrets and connecting with their family and how can you change? Do you ever really change? Are you always the same person? All of that stuff. It's kind of fascinating. Is it a movie I would rewatch? No. But did it capture my attention, make me think? Yes, it did. Number 54, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I thought, it's the sort of movie you go into it expecting, man, that might not be very good. And then it actually felt like it captured the vibe right. It played it very safe. It didn't take a lot of risks, but it delivered a good Axel Foley experience. I thought they didn't do the daughter plotline right. I don't know that I wanted them to cast a comedic actress to play the daughter, but they needed to have an actress that could, at some level, match Eddie Murphy's energy and charisma. And they didn't do that. And so they had someone that, you're a bad dad. And it just keeps hitting that note from someone that doesn't have his spark of energy. And you have that same vibe from someone that's funny and they're cracking, making jokes out of it. Then it's endearing and it has some fun, as opposed to just feeling like a wet blanket in a Beverly Hills Cop movie. Oddity. This is another one that maybe some of these ones, it's really fun, not fun, that's the wrong word. Fresh spin on a haunted house movie. That smaller budget, really cool little horror film that kind of takes some of the normal tropes of the genre and the beats and turns them on their head a little bit. Of, this is normally the bad guy, but this time they're the good guy, and the person that you're trying to flips all the ingredients on their head a little bit. That was what I liked about the film. Sometimes you get kind of lost in these mix of maybe we've reached the point in time on the list where it's really tough, because I'm looking at the movies that I'm coming up on. It's all of these ones are either ones I really enjoyed, or there's something about them that I really got excited about them. So yeah, that's the point where we're at in this list. We're at the point in time where it's really tough, because I'm going to talk about how much I enjoyed all of these movies pretty much henceforth. 52, A Different Man. This is a movie where Sebastian Stan plays an actor that has I don't know the name of the condition, but essentially his face is filled with tumors. It's a real condition. And his entire life is defined by how insecure he is about his appearance. And he does a radical procedure that cures him of this and gets rid of the tumor, so he now looks like Sebastian Stan, movie star good looks. And he becomes a different man, and he chooses to pretend that his former self died and live as this other person. And his neighbor, when he had the condition, was writing a play basically about him. And he comes back and he wants to play himself in this play about his life. And then this man shows up that has the same condition, that doesn't have the insecurities. He's charismatic, he's fun, he loves his life, but he has this condition with the tumors. And so a different man is potentially going to get the role in the play. This, I started defining so much the plot to tell you what the movie is. You have to kind of explain it. Once again, why certain movies that are really great are really difficult to market, because there's not an easy elevator pitch. But it's a fascinating look at character, identity, insecurity, and how two people can have the same condition but respond to it so differently. So, and the guy the different man that gets the part is the actor that plays that actually has the condition. And is like this really funny guy. Like you saw it at a film festival. They were both there, and it's just fascinating just to see. I don't know. Very different kind of movie. Speaking of different kinds of movies and better kinds of movies, A Better Man. This was a secret screening at Fantastic Fest. I didn't know what I was watching, and we're sitting there and said, this is a biopic about Robbie Williams, where Robbie Williams is played by a CGI monkey. And everyone in the theater goes, who's Robbie Williams? So in England, Robbie Williams is like the biggest pop singer of the last 30 years. In the United States, he's that guy that you saw his album cover at the record store in 2001, but you never heard it before. And apparently he had a big rivalry with Oasis. Oasis, everyone knows who Oasis is, knows every word to Wonderwall. We do not know who Robbie Williams is. So this is a musical biopic of his life from the director of The Greatest Showman. So it has all the liveliness of The Greatest Showman production, but also this bizarro twist where the lead character is played by a CGI monkey version of himself. And they don't like, it's not like a plot point. It's just like this weird quirk. And when you combine that with the lively Greatest Showman directorial style, it's a film where it is all about the cool style and the way they bring it to life. Robbie Williams' story to me, I didn't think was very interesting because it was basically, I tried out for a boy band when I was young and got it. And so I became very famous, very young. And I was kind of an idiot, so I got kicked out of the band. So I started my own thing where I was very successful. And then I struggled with being successful. It's not a lot of obstacles. Like the story itself is not particularly compelling, but it's told in such a compelling manner. So some people are loving this movie. Number 50. Oh man, my nose is, the itchiness is absolutely taking over. Number 50, Carry On. This is the Netflix original movie that came out of nowhere, and then it was like we all said on a Friday night, hey, I'm going to watch that new Taron Egerton thriller at an airport. None of us had seen a trailer for it. None of us knew this movie existed. We all just went, I'm going to watch that tonight. And it became like this big hit movie that everyone was talking about that came out of nowhere. It's actually from the director of a bunch of some of the better Liam Neeson action thrillers, several of them very reminiscent of this film. One on a train, one on a plane, both of them criticized for being implausible. And it felt like with this movie, the director heard the criticisms and went, let's make this thing make a little bit more sense. Let's actually explain how the bad person on the phone is pulling all this stuff off. And so it's just a better version of two Liam Neeson thrillers that he did before with a more fun villain from Patrick, not the killer from American Psycho, as I've said when I've missaid his name before. But I dug it. You said that was your favorite movie of all time?
No, I enjoyed it, but it was meh. It was fine.
It was meh? How dare you? It's the best movie I've ever seen. Number 50 of the year. But yeah, I guess it's like a Netflix movie done right. A movie that you're not paying $15 per person to see it at the theater, but like on a Friday night, you're in the mood for a thriller with some movie stars. It delivers what you want. Number 49 on here. This one actually has not released yet, but it kind of is released. It's for your consideration. So I've seen it, but it hasn't released. Watched it a couple days ago. Wallace and Gromit versus Robots, or whatever it's called.
Vengeance Most Foul.
Vengeance Most Foul. I'm not a big Wallace and Gromit person, but they're witty, they're clever. The stop motion is very fun because we don't get a lot of stop motion immediately. When you do stop motion, it cuts through. If you like Wallace and Gromit, you are going to have a blast with this movie. You're going to get everything with the wordplay, the puns, all of that stuff. This is her sort of... How about you review this movie since you're the one obsessed with Wallace and Gromit?
Well, we don't have time for me to review the movie, but I liked it. It was hilarious.
Yeah, as the person that's a big fan, she really dug it. As the person that's not super into it, I was like, yeah, that's really good. This is really well done. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. Number 8, humanistic vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. My notes only said humanistic vampire, so I had to struggle hard to pull out the full title for this movie. Humanistic vampire seeking consenting suicidal person.
Goodness,
Yeah, what a title right there. And it's like a coming of age story about a vampire that doesn't like the taste of blood, and so her parents are really pushing her to eat and kill more people. So she's trying to find someone, and they're like, "Come on now!" And everyone does it, and it's like does it like the normal way that parents are like trying to get your kid to reach out and be more social or whatever, and like, yeah, just kill a person, suck their blood. And so she's trying to do this, but without hurting someone's feelings by murdering them. And so she
plays an ad.
I don't remember exactly how it plays out. I watched it a while ago, but so she loves people, so she doesn't want to kill them. So humanistic vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. So she seeks out like this depressed guy that wants to kill himself because he's bullied. Which was like, I'm laughing, and it's played lighthearted. And so she meets this guy that wants to kill himself because no one likes him, and then they end up liking each other. So it's like this sweet coming of age romance, and it all comes about because he wants to die, and she's trying to find someone that wants to die, and then they, have a cute little romance. So
Oh my goodness.
and I think that's the one that's French Canadian. Maybe the other one is actually French. I think this one might be the French Canadian one. I saw both of them at Overlook Film Festival. I saw this one. Overlook Film Festival is a horror festival. I was there with a bunch of horror TikTokers. A bunch of them loved this movie. Like if you're really in the horror space and you like kind of offbeat horror films, coming of age stories, you might love that movie. Once again, that's what's cool about film festivals is you watch these movies like, that's not my thing. That's not like, oh, coming of age, like that, like this is not me. But that doesn't mean it's like for the niche that this movie's for, they loved it. This is one of their favorite movies of the year that they wanted to tell everybody about it. Number 47, this might have been my first date night of the year with you. 40. Sometimes when you add little clarifiers, it doesn't actually clarify things. 47, The Beekeeper. This one was unbelievable. That they found all the ways for Jason Statham to be just an awesome action hero. That you go into January, you see Jason Statham action thriller, you're like, is this going to be any good? Well, believe me, this one is one of the better ones. That it knew its job, it knew what people wanted out of it, and it knew to deliver all the bee puns you expect from the trailer. It's ridiculous, but it's also tons of fun. And off the top of my head, I couldn't come up with. Could you riff a little bit more with bee puns?
You did well.
Yeah. I wish I'd prepped that a little bit more. 46, The First Omen. I went into this one with very low expectations because I don't like nun horror films, and this is a nun movie. And it's a prequel to a movie from the 1970s. A little bit long delayed there. And like The Omen, there's like, it's an absolute classic, but there's some things in it that I just don't think you would do now, where it's just kind of matter of fact about, a mother being a jackal and stuff like that. That just, how would you do that? What do you do with that? And they managed to win me over as a skeptic. And I was like, that was surprisingly good. As a horror movie, it actually had shocking imagery that horrified me. There's a lot of pregnancy in it, and it goes for it, and it shows stuff where you go, whoa, I didn't think you could do that, and I'm weirded out. But you're supposed to horrify me with your horror movie, you did. It also has the paranoia of The Omen, so pulled it off. Land of Bad. So a couple days ago, I was debating if I was going to show you Ordinary Angels or Land of Bad. I went with the one that made you cry a lot.
So
but
much.
This is like it's the kind of movie that would have been a hit soldier action movie if it came out 20 years ago. They're just not big hit movies anymore. Has two different Hemsworths plus Milo Vegetables is in it. and just like a good old-fashioned soldier action, guys stranded, trying to save the day, and it allows soldiers to be heroes. It doesn't like try to deconstruct them or tackle grander issues of anything like that. It's just soldiers are there to save the day, and it lets them be sacrificial and all of that stuff. Just like, it's not breaking any new ground. It's, if you're in the mood for one of those movies, it's a fun one of those movies. 44, Piece by Piece. Speaking of movies that don't break any new ground and don't do anything fresh, new, and original, Piece by Piece is not in that category. This is a musical documentary Lego movie about the life of Pharrell Williams. This is the year of unexpected musical biopics, with Better Man being CGI monkey version of Robbie Williams. This one being the life of Pharrell Williams as a Lego documentary. It is a documentary. I had people on TikTok telling me this is not a documentary. I was like, yes, it is. It is interviews. It is people being interviewed about his life, but it's visualized with Lego, which is so interesting, so original. For me, I liked this one quite a bit more. And some of that is that I think Pharrell Williams' story is more interesting. There's more setbacks. There's more conflict, where he had these big victories early on, and then he didn't know what to do with it or how to transition it. And doors were opened, but then he had to like keep hustling to find something. And it, like, his career kept evolving. And it was also kind of the opposite of Robbie Williams, where I watched this Robbie Williams movie and I went, wow, I've never heard of any of these songs. Not one of them have I ever heard. One that the melody was a little familiar. And then with Pharrell Williams, I did not realize how many songs that I love or that I know that he worked on, that he produced, that he wrote the rap in this one verse back in 1992 on the song, was it Informer or whichever one is from 30 years ago? Like, he worked on it, Rump Shaker or something like that, from when I was in the 5th grade. I remember that song, hearing it at the skating ring for my 5th grade graduation trip to the skate ring. And the song, there's a couple different songs that they played that I remember from that same skate trip, that he worked on it. And then, worked with No Doubt, and then of course had his own solo career as a singer, and then as a judge. Like, there's so much in there that's really interesting, and it was Lego. So it's a cool little film. Like, is it one that I'm gonna like keep rewatching or anything? Like, no, but like, I was not all that interested in this, and you won me over. 43, Saturday night. This was a secret screening at Fantastic Fest, and just a really interesting a movie that, I've used this language a couple times in here, but puts you in a time and a place. This one in a very specific time and place, the 90 minutes before the premiere of the first episode of Saturday Night Live. It's kind of chaotic. It's not really a classic story. It's not really a beginning, middle, and end. It's not a classic character arc, but it's about this place with this ragtag group of influential comedians and television people coming together to create something that changed television. And one thing that was so fascinating about it is because, Saturday Night Live's been around for 50 years now, that it's become the institution that has overstayed its welcome. And, Saturday Night Live hasn't been funny since, and everyone fills in a different date, which lines up with when they graduated from high school. But everyone says this, it hasn't been funny for so long. And this is a reminder that when it came out, it was the disruption in the market. It's the one that turned all the foundational, institutional things upside down. It did that. Reminds you of all of that. So it's like another one where it's like, I didn't fully love it, but I really appreciated seeing it and seeing that story told. Here's the one we watched a couple days ago, Woman of the Hour. This was directed and stars Anna Kendrick. It's kind of a thriller about this actress that's struggling with her career, and if she wants to keep on doing it, and she goes on the dating show, just like that's what her manager could get her, and she tries to like let her personality pop through and see what that looks like, and she ends up winning a date with this guy. And this was a real event that happened. She wins it, like the guy that she's like likely going to go on the date with is a serial killer. And it's really happened. It's a real life event. There was a serial killer that worked throughout the 70s and 80s, and he competed on the dating show. So what it really does really well is that this guy was around for a long time, and there were people were reporting him. He was arrested, but he kept being released. It's horrifying that this would happen. And so the movie finds ways to kind of like everything that happens in the movie didn't really happen, but they symbolize a thing that did happen. That was a pattern of behavior of people ignoring warning signs, reports. And so this guy was preying on women for over a decade. And they don't even know how many victims he had. He was like convicted for 8 murders, but there's reason to believe maybe there's more than that because he would take pictures of them, and they found his collection of photos, and it's over 100 people, and they haven't been able to track down all these people, and they're trying to line them up with missing people. It's a fascinating story. So it's not like it's a sort of movie that makes you really interested in something that really happened. The movie might not fully capture how great it all is, but it sets you down a path where you like want to read all the articles about this horrifying real event. That was one you wanted to check. What did you think about that one?
I don't know which one you're talking about. Sorry.
Woman of the Hour.
Oh.
Anna Kendrick, the movie.
Yes. It was okay. I don't know. I think I was more excited about it than I enjoyed it, if that makes sense.
Like for me, I really resonated with it. I was like, finally, a movie that I feel seen. I was like, this guy in this movie is just like me. Is Turn going for a high five? Oh, I thought I'd get a high five out of that one. I've heard of several other people kind of having that response to it, that they didn't get as much out of it as they wanted. I think for me, sometimes those movies that like set me down the rabbit hole, that makes me go, oh, I'm fascinated by this. The whole journey of discovery makes it better for me. 41, A Complete Unknown. This is the new James Mangold biopic about Bob Dylan. And tell us what you thought about this one.
Which one?
A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie. You love this one. You said it was your favorite movie. You got you got Complete Unknown tattooed on your lower back.
I did not.
Oh.
It wasn't.
So how many tramp stamp jokes do you think we can
Too
squeeze?
many. One tramp stamp joke is more than enough. One is too many. I just don't understand why people liked it as much as they did. Like, I'm always surprised when that's the best movie of the year, and I'm like, what? Yeah. That's my personal take. Hot take, maybe.
Well, so I'd agree with that. You're more negative on it than what you just said.
Because everybody is like sweeping.
See, she has a contrarian vibe to her. That if something's overhyped and she watches it, what are you talking about? It's like, that movie is terrible. You don't mean it's terrible. You mean it's dramatically overhyped. I mean, I've
taken a very satisfactory nap during that film.
She found it very boring. I generally agree with what you're saying. Like, I don't know what someone would see in this movie and go, that's the best movie of the year. Maybe if you're like a big Bob Dylan fan, and so you like all the interactions and the song origins and the relationships, like if you're really into him, I could see where you'd really connect with it. That's not me. I've never really liked Bob Dylan. I generally speaking like the covers of his songs more than his versions, besides Like a Rolling Stone, the one that's the source of the title of the movie. That's the one Bob Dylan recording that I actually like. So I didn't really know his story. The movie, another one of these, puts you in a time and place films. Kind of interesting for me, and just kind of seeing how he was influential. I felt this is kind of the premise of the movie, that he's a mystery that you can never get an answer to what's going on there. But that's also when you go into a movie that's about why did he do what he do? Why did he treat the people the way he did? Why did he influence music the way he did? Why did he embrace folk and leave folk and turn to rock? Like, why did he do all of that? The answer is we don't know. He's mysterious. You can see why that would be unsatisfying. 40, If. This is the John Krasinski movie that very reminiscent of, and I felt like a lot of family movies from like the 80s and 90s that they'd have a cutesy element, but they'd have this melancholy. There's a very somber essence to the films. And that's what I thought this movie did really well, is kind of being a family movie that isn't afraid to linger on subject matter that's not the most pleasant. I don't think it stayed with me as well as I would have liked. I probably would have been more positive on it when it came out back in May, just for being an original film, being something that did kind of like a family movie with weight to it, emotional weight to it. And, you know, we don't have enough I love escapism in films, but I also think that there should be movies that challenge children, and having stories about death and loss and moving on. Telling stories of that helps prepare children for experiencing it in real life. So I enjoyed that, but it's a movie that I didn't feel like it stayed with me with time, the way some other movies on this list stayed with me. Sometimes people are like, hey, in May you had this one higher and you had this one lower. What happened? Simple answer. Certain movies with time, they stay with you. You think about them more. You re-explore them. You want to talk about them more. So they go up. And there's other movies that leave a good impact in the theater. There's something you're excited about. With time, you're like, I mean, that was enjoyable, but like it didn't impact me the same way some of these other ones did. Did you have a bunch of thoughts on If?
No.
39, Babes. This is when I saw it South by Southwest. Essentially, it's Bridesmaids for pregnancy, where Bridesmaids is about female friendship and how that changes with wedding parties and marriage. And in different phases of life, you're friends with different people. And sometimes you're friends with them on different ways, and there can be weird rivalries in there. And so it kind of touches on that concept. Babes does that with pregnancy and the idea of children, of how when you have kids, that changes your friendships with other people. And when you become pregnant, that changes your friendships with other people. And it is funny, it's heartfelt, kind of touches on a lot of different stuff. This is an example of a movie that I feel like just kind of got lost in the noise. That I think it did nothing at the box office, just dead on arrival. But it got great reviews. Everyone that did see it was like, that was a good movie. That was enjoyable, but didn't have a marketing budget, and it didn't have a star to kind of help draw people to it. So it just kind of got lost, and no one saw it. And that's the sort of thing that is unfortunate, that movies like this don't cut through. A bunch of people asking me like, hey, Sean, did you see this movie? It was my second favorite film of the year. Hey, Sean, did you see this? And that's kind of like with Babes, of like another one of these movies that like feels like if more people saw this, more people would like it, but people didn't see it. 38, Kill. This is an Indian film that I saw at Fantastic Fest in 2023. It came out this summer, and it is a more straightforward action film than you would normally see from India. Some of the stereotypes about, dance moms, musical numbers, the melodrama. There's none of the dance moms. There's none of the music. Even the melodrama is way cut back. And it's much more in line with kind of a tonally with like a Hollywood action film, intentionally so. And it's a film that took a while to get released because they wanted to make it the way they wanted to make it, which was very violent and bloody, and the censors were holding it back from being released like that. It was released in the United States by Lionsgate, which it's very rare for a Bollywood, an Indian film to be released by an American distributor. They play here all the time, but they're distributed by themselves. This was distributed by Lionsgate. Fortunately, for whatever reason, people didn't go see it. If you're looking for an action movie, just like good old-fashioned action thrillers with visceral violence, go see this movie. First half of it, you'll be like, all right, it's Die Hard on a train, gotcha. And then it hits the midpoint. If you saw it probably in India, there's probably where the intermission takes place, where the title card drops. They're basically the midpoint of Indian movies. They crescendo to something happens, and then the title card drops, and there's an intermission. That happens in this movie. There wasn't an intermission, but at the film festival, this thing happens. Title card drops an hour and a half into the movie, and everyone goes, "Oh, it's about to go down!" And the whole back half of the movie is this guy just ripping people's heads off. It's pretty cool. 37. Going to get myself in trouble with this one, and we'll take a pause as we hit my next breaking point. We are now behind schedule again because of my long rants on the last one. Nosferatu. This is an interesting one because there's a batch of people that are like, Nosferatu, best movie of the year, top 10 of the year. Why isn't one year in top? This movie's incredible. Last night, I go outside. Someone knocks at my door. They go, I want to play with fire with your kids. So my kids go outside to play with fire. And they got sparklers, this Captain America thing. Melissa, if you've been around for the whole live stream, baby girl, Melissa. She invites my kids to play with fire, walk outside. Her husband that warned her about baby girl, he's there too. He goes, Nosferatu. Disappointed me. And it's interesting. I've had that conversation with a lot of people. Cool visuals, but I've seen this movie before. That was my feeling with the movie. Cool visuals. Love the dream logic. But I've seen this movie before. I wish the story was as fresh as the visual style. Because as is, it's kind of like choosing between this movie and Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's just kind of a matter of which style do you like more. If you're an Eggers fan, you're going to like this one more. If you're a Coppola fan, you like that one a little bit more. If you grew up with Coppola, you probably like that one more. You watched it first. But if you've never seen Bram Stoker's Dracula and you watch this for the first time, oh wow, what a fresh take on vampire mythology. It is not that at all, actually. It is quite literally the opposite of that. So that was kind of my take. Just the visually very cool, performance is great. Another kind of wild, crazy, different performance from
I don't know who you talking
Bill
about.
Skarsgård. Just hit that moment where like the record went off the track. Gotta break in just a second so that I can refresh, itch my nose. Do more of that. What's that? What you call it? Booger
Stop.
sugar?
No. Stop
Booger
it.
sugar downstairs.
Stop it.
Can pick my brain back up.
No, it's not a thing.
Drop some nail glue in my eyes. Wake me up a little bit.
Jeepers.
She's reading me a story about that. Anyway, Nosferatu. Bill Skarsgård, another interesting performance. So different from his other two movies he was in this year. He might have been more movies than that. That guy's been very prolific recently. But, yeah, like, I thought it was very good. I did not think it was great.
I didn't see it.
Well, I know you didn't see it. Watched it with Vincent. Question.
Oh, they're gonna get mad.
What? I mean,
They're mad.
there's just a lot I can't watch. 36, The Last Stop in Yuma. This is like a small little bottle film about people end up stuck at this diner attached to a gas station that is in the middle of nowhere, and they've run out of gas. And so there's some travelers waiting for the gas truck to arrive, and there's some bank robbers that are there trying to get out of there. And so then it's like all the pressure starts to build as people start to realize those are criminals, and cool little small little thrill. If you like bottle films that are a little bit offbeat, check it out. 35, The Fall Guy. This is one where this was just a great date night movie. Like I was able to see it at South by Southwest 2 months before its world premiere, and the movie stars were there. So it's very, seeing it, and that's the best environment to watch movies. It was so much fun. I was like, I think my wife's going to love that. But our friend Rachel Wagner, this is her most disappointing film of the year. Like, she did not like it at all. So I was like, am I crazy, or is my wife going to like that? We went to see it as soon as it opened, and I won. I know my wife better than the person that's not married to my wife. Turns out that we had a great time with the movie. Just funny, little romance, some action, practical stunts, movie star charisma, all the good stuff. 34, Challengers. This is like a movie that just oozes style, fantastic score, like very... I don't even know how to without what the other ones would just describe the plot of the movie, but fascinating dynamics of like three very competitive, very intense people in the world of tennis, and this bizarro love triangle that, everyone's in love with everyone. Everyone's trying to manipulate everyone. It's wild stuff. 33, Juror Number 2. This is a jury deliberation film. It's not a courtroom drama. Little courtroom, but it's really about the deliberation for the jurors. And I went in not knowing the twist of the film, so I'm not going to say what it is, but it's a movie that as soon as you find out what's going on in the movie, you go, oh, that's a fun little twist. That's a fun angle. And it's just like a solid little court juror thriller. That the rural juror. Here's the thing that's crazy about this one. This is Clint Eastwood's last movie, and Warner Brothers buried it, which I find to kind of be offensive, because it's not like it's a bad movie. It's not Megapolis or anything like that. It's an absolute Hollywood legend who has won Oscars, multiple, puts out one final movie that has movie stars in it, and they barely released it. That's crazy and kind of offensive. 32, Speak No Evil. This is just my kind of horror thriller. I haven't seen the original one, so I'm no point of comparison here or anything like that. I can't do that. But I got what I wanted out of from when I saw the trailers of this family goes and stays at this house in the middle of nowhere with James McAvoy, who turns out to be a total creep weirdo. I got what I wanted out of that movie, like of awkward, uncomfortable humor combined with awkward, uncomfortable, horrifying concepts and ideas. That's what I wanted. That's what it delivered. Kind of crescendos at the end. And it's surprisingly funny. Like, you go into it expecting all of the intense, scary stuff, but it's funny in ways I wasn't expecting it to be that didn't cheapen or undercut the tension and the thrills. 31, Smile 2. I went into the first movie not really excited, and it was a pleasant surprise. And for some reason, I went into the second one also not expecting much, and it somehow continued to be another pleasant surprise. That it was like a very much more assured film, with directorially speaking. It was like the director had their confidence this time and was able to like kind of get bigger and wilder with some of the stuff that it does and the way that it's trippy and you don't know what's real and what's not. And then Naomi Scott just gives a really good performance, like a really like this gut-wrenching performance, and she drinks a lot of water in the movie. Number 30. This is another one we need to watch tonight. Five movies.
Watch this many movies tonight.
Yes, we can. We'll watch all of them at 4x speed. Bad Boys Ride or Die. I really dug the last one. It was my favorite of the three movies, and then this one I thought was a great follow-up. It follows a familiar formula. It's kind of like The Fugitive, except with bad boys. MVP here is the tragic fate of Reggie with everything.
You're saying tragic. Recently you added tragic to it. I thought it was going to be funny, so now I'm sad.
Yeah, I'm a mystery.
True that.
So is Rhodey. What a sweet little guy. Wow. This is like the top of an example of a movie that was good, and there's this one sequence in it where you're like, whoever came up with that, wherever that came from, well played. That was fantastic. 29, Ultraman Rising. Not a big Ultraman fan. I was invited to go to Skywalker Ranch and Lucasfilm to talk with the directors, learn how the movie was made, but I didn't want to do that if I wasn't going to like the movie. Luckily, the movie was already on Netflix, and it had been for months, so I could watch it. And I watched it and went, oh, that was really cool. Because it's basically DreamWorks' version of Ultraman. It's not made by DreamWorks, so it's not actually DreamWorks. It's a Netflix original that was animated at Lucasfilm. But what I mean by that, it has that vibe of Abominable, How to Train Your Dragon, even this year's Wild Robot, of like unexpected friendships and relationships. This one, Ultraman who fights kaiju, ends up raising a kaiju. It's all about family, fathers and sons, and raise unexpected broken relationships. This is like very much a family drama. One of the biggest influences the director said was Kramer vs. Kramer, which is a divorce drama. And that's what influenced his Ultraman movie. It was just interesting. That's like when movies like pull outside influences and merge them together. That's creativity. 28, Terrifier. This is actually kind of fun. I've got two Christmas movies in a row on this. Terrifier 3, the Christmas movie we forgot to watch with the kids this year. That another one where I get to interview the director. The way this worked out, I actually have 3 in a row where I interviewed the director. So I love the behind-the-scenes story of the Terrifier movies. Of there's just literally micro budget, $35,000. They made the first movie for that, and to now this one making over $50 million just in the United States. It was this far away from making more in the U.S. than Joker 2. That's crazy insanity, because Joker 2, its production budget was 100 times more than Terrifier 3. I think they just did a great job of building out like an interesting lore. This movie's about survivor's guilt. You don't expect a Terrifier movie to be about survivor's guilt. all while having all the insane Art the Clown antics, shock humor, dead kids, all the stuff that you love in a movie. And most importantly, my mother bought me a Terrifier shirt for Christmas. And as soon as like I opened it up, like, Terrifier shirt from Christmas, Mom? my sister and my brother-in-law and niece, nephew, they're all there, and they go, you got him an Art the Clown t-shirt? It was incredible. Speaking of Christmas movies for the whole family, the best Christmas pageant ever.
An actual family.
What? So is Terrifier 3. It's about families. Just like a good, wholesome, old-fashioned Christmas movie. Without any cynicism, it's all about grace. Just such a pleasant surprise. Just charming in an old-fashioned way. That what we talked about with Dallas Jenkins, how he designed it to be timeless. And just like you described it as, I felt nostalgia for a movie I hadn't felt yet. It just hadn't seen yet. This is perfect. Perfect capture that. September 5. This was an interesting one because I knew the story behind it and she didn't know the story behind the real life events. So it's basically about a terrorist event that happened at the Olympics 50 years ago. And it's told from the perspective of the newsroom because the event itself is just horrifying and interesting in and of itself. But also in the history of broadcast news, it was an important event because it was like the first time you could do live coverage of like a terrorist event. And what did that mean for news? So just like a really interesting perspective on a fascinating, horrifying event. And it's short, sweet, it's to the point, puts you in a time and a place. It's only like 95 minutes long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome, which as old people, we love.
Speak for yourself.
This is live broadcast will end in 6 seconds. That could be a problem. Uh-oh.
Did you schedule?
No, I didn't. I didn't do this. But it might not, but it might. Are we still going?
I don't know.
Yeah, it gave me a warning. Out of nowhere, it told me it's going to kick me off, but it didn't do that. We're still good?
I think we're fine.
All right. Oh, my heart. I really got
You just scared everybody.
It scared me. Imagine how I feel about this. I told them we were going to do it.
Reassuring them this whole time. We're going to keep going, and then you're like, oh, it's
you
gonna
lied to all of my followers there. So how dare you? Abigail, the vampire ballerina movie. Another movie where I interviewed the directors very briefly on the red carpet. Very briefly. Got to ask them a question, but I did. 3 out of the last 4. 4 out of the last 5. Numbers are tough. Brain is shot. I just like these close quarters thrillers. This is my kind of movie. They call them pressure cooker movies. It's that. The ensemble's a lot of fun beyond the fact that it's about a vampire ballerina. So I dug it. There's a lot of fun. 24. The movie that was played the most in my house at this past year. The Idea of You. If you just counted the number of times this movie was played the first week in May, this is the movie that was played the most in my house. The Idea of You. And it's, a romantic dramedy, but grounded. It doesn't play like a comedy. It has the fantastical elements of, suburban woman gets swept away by a much younger pop star. Like, there's the fantasy of it, but it plays serious. It doesn't play like with comedy logic or tone, but it has very organic humor in it. But what really works about it is that, like, the drama, the conflict feels earned and believable because it's based off the ways humans would actually respond to things and the differences that would actually tear them apart. And then it kind of exploring the idea that no matter how old you are, no matter how successful you are, you're still figuring yourself out. And you have two people that are very different, but also that they respect each other and they treat each other like they see the person. They see in the other person what the other person wants others to see in them, that they feel like others are missing. There's just something about that like feels very human. We all want to be seen. You have these two people in very different phases of life that don't feel seen or understood. And then they find each other in this, ridiculous, insane, unrealistic scenario. But there's the humanity. That's what people connect with. We also saw it at its world premiere and we're in the front row. And Anne Hathaway, your close personal friend you've never spoken to, was right there in front of you. 23, Strange Darling. This is a small little thriller that just does a real nice job of playing around with your perspective. It's told non-linear, and like each little piece, you keep changing your perspective on what you think is happening and who's really doing what. It just does a great job of playing around with your built-in biases, unsympathetic victims, all sorts of ideas that keeps you guessing what's really going on, why is it happening, what are we looking for, all that stuff. Just real smart little thriller. 22, A Quiet Place Day One. When they said they were doing a spinoff in New York City, I went, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like, when you watch A Quiet Place, and it's about this family in the woods, it's all about the family and very isolated, and it's a global threat. The immediate thought is, well, so what happened over there in the big city? And they made a movie that answers that. Like, that's a spin-off done right. Because you can have the thrills, the creatures, but in a setting and with characters that are very different. The mainline movies are very much about a family and their reaction. And this is about two single individuals that don't have a family. They're in the end of the world. They don't have their family they're trying to protect. They don't have anyone. And so it's about the bonds you form with whoever's there. So I just thought it was like the right way to do a spinoff, and ties into the lore just a little bit. It doesn't overdo it. It doesn't do too much of, and then this thing that you saw here, it was from this and this was from that. And no. Like it ties in just a little bit. It makes you go, oh, okay. It is all connected. Oh, cool. Just a little bit. 21, Furiosa. I just thought this was another great addition to the world of Mad Max. And what it does really nicely is that the Mad Max proper films are pretty tight stories in that they cover a very small period of time. They're very much about this one adventure, this one threat, this one thing that happens to Max, or this adventure that he steps into. And with Furiosa, it covers multiple decades. And so you actually feel like you're seeing this world develop. The world that Mad Max has these adventures in, you finally feel like you're exploring it and understanding the different tribes and the groups. So it does more world building than all of the Mad Max movies combined, because it's inherent to the story that it would do that. And in particular, it's like, it's a prequel to Fury Road, so it really sets the context of the world that he steps into. It has all the action, all the stunts, all that stuff. Now, I don't think it's, on the same level as Road Warrior and Fury Road that were just so refreshing. It does feel a little bit like we're doing Fury Road again, but now with Furiosa as the lead. And she was already kind of the lead of Fury Road. But it's not quite, didn't stay in my mind as like a top 10 kind of film, but I think it's really well done. And it's a very good, if you're going to do another story and we're not just doing more Mad Max, this builds out the world of Mad Max in a way that those other movies don't. 20, Alien Romulus. This is one that I wish I could put it a little bit higher on the list, because there's so much in here I love. And in so many ways, it's the Alien movie I've been waiting for almost my whole life, or my whole life that I can remember. That it goes back to the vibe of Alien and Aliens. It's like an average of Alien and Aliens. It's very intentionally trying to capture the aesthetic, the sound effects of those movies. It has the tension of Aliens. It has the action of Aliens. Best of all these worlds. It's Fede Alvarez that is very good with these pressure cooker close quarters films, so I thought he was a great person to do this. He loves practical. He goes practical. That's what this movie is. There's a couple of missteps in here with bringing a character back and the way they brought the character back. I think did you brainstorm the idea of what if he was just on the TV screen? Were you the one that said that?
I am the one that said that.
So she proposed the idea of like, don't do what you did where it was as like, there's too much uncanny valley, but whenever he was on the screen, it was fine. So if you just had him on the screen, I think people would have been much more forgiving of it, because it looks dramatically better, and what offends people in the digital resurrections they wouldn't be as offended by that. So I think they could have saved themselves some trouble there. But also, I don't love the last 15 minutes. I didn't hate it, but I also definitely don't love it. It's not what I would have done. 19, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Hey, buddy, man, you're like right on camera, and you're weirding everybody out. They're leaving comments about my creepy dog. Did you want to come and hang out with me over here? Come on up. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I adore the trilogy from the last decade. I just think all of them hold up. I always, whenever I rewatch, I'm like, man, I don't know which one's my favorite. I mean, it's Dawn, but also maybe it's Rise. I don't know. Like, I love Rise so much. And I was nervous because of the person they had doing it. This one, I think, it's the first time we actually get to explore the actual Planet of the Apes. And it feels like there's this big world. We're on an adventure crossing it. We're seeing the legacy of Caesar. So much in there that, once again, a great compliment to what came before. In a lot of ways, like Furiosa, of that kind of world building, spending time in the Planet of the Apes, or in the case of that one, the Wasteland with Furiosa. All of the kind of similar language. Also, though, I don't feel like it had the weight, that impact that the past trilogy had. Very strong. I really enjoyed the movie. Strong placement on this list. It didn't have that staying power with me. That's why I feel it's lower than I was expecting it, because it didn't stay with me. It didn't have that strong impact with me. 18, Heretic. This is a movie that I was supposed to see it at Fantastic Fest, or it played at Fantastic Fest. We all guessed it was going to be a secret screening, and then it was, and I couldn't get in. I tried really hard, and I couldn't get in, and then it was this movie I wanted to see, and broke my heart. And then I missed the Austin press screening, and then opening night, I remember it was out of town or something, so I was late to see. There's like 3 different times I was supposed to see the movie and didn't. Finally saw the movie. It was very cool. As someone that has 2 degrees in Bible, that has read a whole lot of books on Christian apologetics, philosophy of religion, all that stuff, this movie was right up my alley, and I appreciated that as much as it, the lead character, or the main antagonist, is challenging faith. It always has the Mormon missionaries fire back. It's not like he wins the arguments. He makes arguments, and sometimes they're like, that's a bad argument, and here's why. And they counter him, and they actually have the dialogue. And beyond that, if the takeaway of the movie was the psycho is right, that would not be good. Like, the guy that's the atheist is a psycho that kills people. And all the people of faith in the movie are presented as very generous people that are intelligent and capable. And so they balance things really well. 17, Transformers 1. This is a movie I thought looked horrible from the first trailer. You watched the first trailer, and I was like,
stoked.
You were like really excited, and I was like, that sucked. And so we had a big fight at the house.
We did not.
Had to pull out the Nerf guns to settle it.
We did not.
And as it turns out, you were right. It was actually really, really good. And people were mad. It wasn't in my top 10. I was like, it was really good. I get it. But it found a way to show the rise of Optimus, the fall of Megatron, while being funny. It's the Transformers movie we've been waiting for decades. It's actually all about the Transformers. It's on Cybertron. No human characters messing everything up. So it like did all of it at the same time. I had a couple things where I thought a few things were a little bit rushed here and there, but otherwise, like, a very efficient film that was able to do a lot, cover a lot, make you, it could be very dark while also being very funny. Number 16, and we'll do our last little pause before we do the final stretch on here, and then we'll get out of here.
Hurry.
Okay, we'll do a pretty quick little one, but like my nose is chilling me. I gotta get a drink, and I gotta do some cartwheels or something like that for this final stretch. Civil War. This is one of the most polarizing films of the year, which was kind of interesting. Like, I saw it at its world premiere at South by Southwest, like a month before it came out. And I watched it, and I thought it was a great mirror film. It's not a movie that's setting out to lecture people. It's a movie that's designed to present a scenario that makes you think and kind of challenges you, where each character represents something different in modern politics, but without it being preachy or lectury or overtly taking a side. And then the reactions to the film were like, that movie's so obviously right-wing. That's a movie so overtly left-wing. That movie shouldn't have done this. And then the weird one to people like, this movie's nonsense. Why would California and Texas ever, like, sync up? That was what, like, struck me as so odd, that people, like, locked in on this kind of random element in it that wasn't... The movie's not about why the Civil War took place. It's about how these things happen. Not the particulars, but the way we divide, and the way that, like, there's a sequence in it where people are, like, literally shooting at each other. Like, why are you shooting at each other? Because he's shooting at me. Well, who is it? He's the guy that's shooting at me. Why are you shooting at him? Because he's shooting at me. And it, like, talking about how sometimes you get so lost in the argument, but you don't even remember why you're fighting anymore. Like, I just thought it was, like, just all of these things that are just were very thoughtful. and thought-provoking without lecturing. That's what it was supposed to do. And that's exactly what people hated about it. That they wanted it to pick a side. They wanted it to be tied more to you. Like, this is nonsense. Why would Texas and California be together? It's like, well, the point of that is that we're not commenting on actual U.S. politics directly in that sense. Like, there's an element to it that's like, just like, here's a partnering that would never happen. So, like, that's the fantasy. Like, that's the setup. We're not, stop locking in on, why are you locking in on that? Move on. Just that's the suspension of disbelief. Just that's what you suspend the disbelief so we can have the adventure. They couldn't do that for whatever reason. That was the thing they couldn't accept. Which is fascinating. I just didn't understand that, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it because it wasn't a movie that told me what to think. It put up a scenario and went, think about it. And you can come to all your different conclusions. The comment section on my review for it were just wild as can be because it was all over the place. People on both sides mad at it for opposite reasons. I love that. That's why it's so high on my list. It's art that you have different interpretations of it. Everyone takes away something different. Whether you love it, you hate it. That's what art's supposed to do. It's supposed to be interesting. It's supposed to make you talk. And that's one of the movies that...
Oh my goodness. Sorry.
If it wasn't obvious what happened, the dog sneezed. That's all it was. The dog sneezed, but he's laying on her chest, and so the sneeze is pointed right at her face.
Annie hit my computer.
Yeah.
Whew.
Andy peed his pants.
Stop it.
But he's not wearing pants, which means he peed her pants.
He didn't pee at all.
Oh. Well, it's more exciting if he did. Like a little action-adventure little deal here. Some Sean Chandler fan fiction. That's the fan fiction I write for my life.
Ew.
The dog peed on my couch.
Gross.
All right, quick break, and then we'll close this out, and we got to go pick up our kids. But in any super chats I miss, I'll do a follow-up little video that'll
Answer this question.
and then it'll be over on Sean Chandler Plus to it. Number 15 on our list, Ordinary Angels. This one would have been lower, but we rewatched it last night or 2 nights ago, and it's like the tearjerker movie of the year. That it's like the sort of movie that would have been a big hit 15, 20 years ago, and people just don't go see these movies, or they don't know how to market them anymore or whatever. And so it did okay, it did fine at the theaters, but just like one of these movies that... How would you describe the film?
Heart-wrenching?
Heart-wrenching. She doesn't like it when grown men cry in movies, and this movie features Reacher crying a lot. He barely kills anyone in the movie, but he cries throughout the whole movie.
It was just really sad. I don't have a problem with him crying. It just was
You
sad
don't,
that he
but
had
you
so
don't,
many
you don't like
reasons
it
to cry.
when grown men cry in movies, though.
I've never said that. What are you talking
Yes, you
about?
have. You saying I'm making this up?
Yes.
Normally, when I make things up, they're funnier. It's not like my wife doesn't like this very specific thing that's tragic. All of a sudden, apparently, I've been lying about my wife not liking seeing grown men cry at things.
I mean, I don't like watching who likes watching people cry?
I mean, you were watching that Beast Games last night, laughing at all those people crying over not winning $5 million.
That's not exactly what happened.
That was my interpretation, but apparently I'm delusional and make things up. 14, Gladiator 2. I really dug Gladiator 2. It's a more polarizing film than I was expecting. I saw it at the press screening, and I left it thinking like, hey, does it live up to Gladiator, one of my favorite movies of all time? No. But is it like a worthwhile sequel that does continue the story and flesh some things out and play out the power vacuum that would have taken place and follow up on some ideas? Yeah. And is Denzel Washington a lot of fun? Yeah. Does Ridley Scott still know how to stage like cool action? Yeah. I was like all on board with it. And if you took it not as Gladiator, but just another Gladiator-like film, it'd be very enjoyable. As you take it as like an action movie, very cool action in it. I was surprised how many people didn't like it. Jones Vibes that we keep talking about in here, he might have that as 10 worst of the year. Like, he hated it. Same theater I was in. He was dude, you're distracted.
At least it wasn't in my face this time.
He hated it. Same theater. I didn't even get to talk with him afterwards, but like he was mad at them. Like, what have you done? I was like, that was a good follow-up. I really dug that. So for me, Paul Mescal, I think he's good, but he's no Russell Crowe. And that's maybe one of the things working against the movie is that it reminds you so much of a better film and a better performance or a more magnetic actor. Because it's not, like, I don't think Paul Mescal did anything wrong. He's just not Russell Crowe. And Russell Crowe is one of the great actors of the last 30 years and was absolute, like, the epitome of magnetic machoism in the role of Maximus. Just absolutely embodied it. And that isn't Russell Crowe. Number 13, Honora. I saw this one at Fantastic Fest. I'd heard a lot of great buzz around it. In the first 40 minutes of the movie, I was like, wow, you guys are weirdos, because this movie is just two fools doing cocaine and each other. What are you guys talking about? And then the plot actually kicks in, and it's like this radical tonal shift, and it like, there's like literally 35 minutes into it, something happens that's really funny, like someone says a line, and I went, oh, that's really funny. This movie has a really good joke. And then the rest of the movie is that level of funny, and it ends on a note that's like really like kind of gut-wrenching. Of the film is very kind of you enter it with one perspective, and it takes you on this adventure where you realize like it turns your interpretation of everyone's motivations, actions, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and it keeps morphing as you watch the film. And it starts as like this one fantasy, and it turns in this chaotic middle, and it ends in this totally other place that is surprisingly poignant in a way that you really wouldn't be expecting from where the movie begins. So it's just a film that, like, I can't think of another movie like it, that once it gets past its very provocative first 35 minutes, that I thought it was a very cool experience. Number 12, Sonic 3. I had a blast with this movie. Are you kidding me? Come on, man.
No, don't give it to him. Finish the thing. What have you done?
This movie had everything I enjoyed about the first two Sonic movies, minus all the annoying human subplots that I wasn't crazy about. There's no weddings, anything like that. It's about the Sonic characters. Yeah, maybe you're probably right. Hey, buddy.
Of course I was right.
Rhodey, can I have that?
Come here.
Hey, Rhodey.
Hey.
Rhodey. Hey, we're doing a live stream. Rhodey. Like, they can hear everything.
Rhodey.
This guy freaking doesn't care at all.
Rhodey.
Narcissist.
Rhodey. Come here.
This is what you get.
It didn't work.
Sonic 3. So, like, you get more Sonic characters, less human character stuff. And the amount of human characters, it's enough to be like, that was fun. I missed them a little bit, but without a subplot to make it obnoxious. You get 2 Jim Carreys, and you get Shadow, who's our first totally non-comedic character. So he just adds a weight to it, crescendos to this gigantic, very Sonic-y third act, while also raising the stakes. So I thought for me, I was like, yeah, that's the best of the movies right there. Hey, buddy. I get it. We've all wanted to sit down and chew on a bottle in the middle of a live stream. We've all been there. But not cool. Number 11. I asked my mother her favorite movie of the year. You know what she said on Facebook?
What?
Number 11, Twisters. This is also the movie my wife went to go see in the theater 4 times.
True story.
So that's every year there's this movie that she goes and sees a zillion times. It's normally not what I'm expecting it to be. It's something wild out there, left field. This year it was Twisters. And they did our mysterious neighbor Melissa. They took Chloe went, their daughter went. They went to go see it in 4DX, where they have fans that are blowing air at you.
Highly recommend.
There's they had an employee, you said, that was throwing rocks and rusty nails at the little girl.
Happen.
But it was something like that. So afterwards, she came home and she brought me a white T-shirt and a cowboy hat.
I did not.
And started spraying me with water when I put the white shirt on. I didn't know what was going on. But I thought like a perfect dumb summer blockbuster. It's not trying to be a smart summer blockbuster. It's not trying to break new ground, anything like that. It's just a fun time at the movies. It helps that we're in Tornado Alley. That if you've lived here long enough, you have a tornado story. Like just a couple years back, my brother-in-law had to escape into a Chili's as a tornado was coming in and it blew the windows out. And there was like viral videos of all this stuff. Like it's right near where I live. It's right near the theater that I go to all the time. It's right near the theater where you did the 4DX. And so, like, you resonate with them more. It also helps that Glenn Powell went to the same high school as me. And so, having him have his big movie, that was cool. Also helps the girl at the beginning, close personal friend. We had dinner with her just a couple weeks back.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, Karen, the girl at the beginning. The one that you...
I thought the one on the movie was from Ghostbusters.
No, that's what I keep telling you. It's not her. The one that's the one. That's what I tell you. The one that was.
Oh, that's right.
Chloe thinks it. Chloe's the one that thinks the girl from McKenna Grace is the one that died. No. It's the one that we met and that are close personal friends with.
And by met, you mean sat at the same table.
Close personal friends with her. She's also in Red One, which she's the villain. She's also in Twisters. But so just fun little details. But just like I thought, as someone that saw Twisters in '96, because everyone saw it, and I had the soundtrack with the Van Halen song that broke up the band, all that stuff. I thought this one delivered everything I wanted. It changed it up just a little bit, and it's a little bit fun that our next Superman's in it, and he's a pretty big jerk in the movie. So a nice, some nice counter programming in there. But fortunately, it didn't do all that great globally, but it did really well here in the colonies. Bringing us into the top 10, Deadpool and Wolverine. When I was deciding on my top 10, I took a long time to put Deadpool and Wolverine in there, where I put pretty much all these movies that are here right outside. I tried to put all of them in there, like playing around with it a little bit. And, sometimes you try, like, I don't want to just talk about the most mainstream movies, the movies with the biggest marketing budgets, with the biggest franchises, the biggest movie stars. Like, I want them to be the movies that just, like, excite me, that surprised me, kind of came out of nowhere. So I kept putting them in there. Sometimes you even want to, like, have my own credibility as a critic or whatever. At the end of I have my issues with Deadpool and Wolverine. But the reality is, if I'm being honest, it absolutely belonged in that spot. As soon as I put it in there, I went, that's me being honest. It's not my top 5. But absolutely, most fun I had at the theater, the most, like, the member berries. Not all member berries are good. There are bad member berries movies. But I watched this movie and by now, I think you could say it. Wesley Snipes walks out. I saw all of those Blade movies in the theater. Adore those movies. Like I think drove myself to go. One of the first R-rated movies I drove myself to was like the first Blade. And I even really enjoy Blade Trinity. It's not good, but I really enjoyed it. And they had some jokes about that, and it was tons of fun. Because Ryan Reynolds was in that Blade, if you don't know that. Jennifer Garner. Some in not well-regarded movies. It was so cool to see her. Doing Gambit the way they did it, so funny. And then Hugh Jackman, of course, brought the gravitas, and they found a story in there. At the end of the day, I got my issues that it's the plot of a Loki episode. That's like, it's kind of nonsense. But did it deliver the feels and the laughs and it was him again. Hey, look, I'm seeing him again. Did it do that? Absolutely. It's in the top 10. Number 9, Opposite Direction, Longlegs. Movie wasn't on my radar at all. And I went to go see it basically because the director was coming to town and I'm trying to do more interviews. So I signed up to do an interview. I was like, oh, hopefully this will be good. And it was one of those movies that just stuck with me, that I was excited about it. That it did something that I didn't realize that I wanted, like a throwback serial killer movie, like Zodiac, Silence of the Lambs. Like, that was cool. And then the camera work, it was just something that it popped to me. The way that it used these wide-angle lenses with very centered actors combined with the sound design, I just really enjoyed the whole vibe of the movie. Oh yeah, Nicolas Cage is in it, given another crazy, wild serial killer Nicolas Cage performance. Number 8, Rebel Ridge. The one movie this year where I watched it in the morning. I was like, oh, an action thriller, I don't know what this is. And I watched it and I went, I gotta watch that with my wife. And so like we gotta watch this movie. So what are you talking about? I just watched a movie. I gotta watch it again. Let's go watch the movie. So I watched it twice on this couch right here that she's seated on. And like I said, it's the one movie this year where I felt like I had to immediately watch it with someone else so I could talk about it with them directly. And I wanted to watch it with her and with Rhodey. He watched it with us too. He loved it as well. And you're watching. It's a throwback action thriller. It's it's like Reacher. It's a little bit First Blood. Has its own little vibe with the main guy that he has a philosophy of de-escalation. He's incredibly trained, but for de-escalation. And so that's just a different way of doing action, of someone that can win the fight, but his goal is not to kill you or hurt you. It's to let's calm down. And so, he's in a shootout and he's trying to get your gun to take the clip out of it, as opposed to grab your gun and shoot you in the face. And then also the other thing that was so good about it is the lead guy, I'd only seen him in Old, where he has a presence, so you remembered him, but he's a very small part in the movie Old. So it's kind of like out of the blue, this guy shows up and you're like, who is this guy? He's so magnetic. He's so good. It's not like it's a big flamboyant character that pops. It's not like he's given these big moments that are obvious, charismatic lead roles. He himself is just very magnetic and pulls you in and holds your attention while just being this really intense guy. So I just such a pleasant surprise that came out of nowhere. Did you enjoy the movie?
I did.
I was talking to Rhodey.
Oh.
He doesn't talk. That was a joke. I was talking to. He's a dog. See? His brain's rotting. Oh, we got 9 minutes? Okay. Substance. This is a movie, when it first came out, I would have given it a B+. That's really good. It got a little bit weird towards the end. And with time, it never left my brain. It stayed with me. And I'd notice something else about it, or someone would comment on something. I was like, that's right, that was so good. And it's most notable for the body horror, or superficially notable for the body horror and the gross out stuff and the insane third act. The whole movie is just such a clever script that is so thought-provoking on beauty standards, Hollywood, identity, just the central premise about stuff about insecurities. It's so good, and it just stays in your brain. Number 6 on here, another Glenn Powell film. This one, at its Texas world premiere, I met Glenn Powell himself at the after party. I was standing outside with Sharonda, pay her weight, we're seated there, and he came outside with everyone else to take pictures out back. And I was like, I want to try and meet him. Sharonda's better at these things. So she kind of positioned me. So I met the director and then stood there long enough. Eventually I did get to talk to Glenn about high school. Now everyone's trying to talk with him. So, I got 30 seconds. I was trying to get the picture, and then someone was like, can I get a picture? And then I ended up taking someone else's picture with him, and I didn't get a picture with him. But also, I just wanted to talk with him more so than just try and take from him, hey, so cool that someone from my high school's succeeding. Give me a picture. I was trying to not do that too much, while at the same time really wanted to do that. Maybe some other time we'll meet. But anyway, the movie Hitman, he wrote it with the director, who I also met. My fried brain is blanking on his name. He's an Austin guy, Boyhood, Dazed and Confused, many other films, School of Rock, blanking on his name. Just a great genre blender, that it's part police procedural based on some real stuff, part screwball comedy with the wacky costumes and stuff, and part steamy oddball romance. That is just so entertaining while not fitting neatly into... Richard Linklater. There it is. That was one of those ones. I can't believe... I'm talking about meeting him, and my brain can't open the file for what his name is. Number 5 on here, Wicked. This is a movie. I knew some people that were excited for this one that live in my house. That some people dressed up like some characters for Halloween this year. I didn't care at all. It's a musical, Wizard of Oz. I didn't care. Went to go see it, and it just won me over. Just... so immersive, sucked me in, that the way that the sets are so big and detailed and with wide shots and long takes that you just feel like you're being swept away to this place. And then everything is just so well choreographed, and John Chu, the director, has been doing like dance movies for now like 15 years. And so you become like this veteran director with the skill set of making big blockbusters, personal rom-coms, as well as dance numbers, and probably did some music videos back in the day. And you pull that all together and you get someone that's able to pull off something so big. Beyond that, you of course have the famous musical numbers. There's more character work than I was expecting and more thematic depth than expected. For Inside Out 2, I was expecting this movie to be great, and it was. I felt the original movie actually lent itself well to a sequel because that mechanism of visualizing our emotions and our cognitive development and emotional development continues to work as you get older and develop more complex emotions, go through puberty. And that's what this movie does so well, that it captures kind of that Mean Girls vibe of why do people act so crazy with their insecurities and how anxiety ties in. And it dives in on anxiety and shows the way that while it can be the enemy in your life, it actually serves an important purpose. It's trying to help you. But anxiety run amok creates chaos. And that's what the movie captures. It makes Riley a prominent character, done so incredibly well. Number 3, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. I'm of the age where for the first 10 years of my life, all I had was Christopher Reeve's Superman movies. He was the superhero. And then, of course, towards the tail end there, Michael Keaton. It's not like now where we're even giving Kraven a movie. Madam Web gets a movie. And so there's a zillion comic book movies. When I was growing up, I had Michael Keaton and I had Christopher Reeve. And his actual real life tragedy is one of the first times that, like, as a person realizing that actors are real people and they're vulnerable. And the person that we saw their vulnerability was Superman. For my age, that was something that was very shocking and very oh. And this movie captures so much life. He lived this larger than life adventure of becoming Superman and a movie star, and then having such a public tragic accident, and then leveraging that for so much more. It's so larger than life, but also so human. You felt like so much life come out of it, and the setbacks, the victories, the tragedy, the triumph, the coming from comic book hero to kind of real life hero, and some of what he was able to do, just really remarkable. Our runner-up, Dune Part 2. I love sci-fi epics. Denis Villeneuve is just someone that is able to make absolutely immaculate productions, where we're off on Arrakis with spice, blue eyes, weird, what are these ships are with the flapping wings, and every single frame is absolutely believable with utter verisimilitude, just grounded in reality while being way off on this distant planet in the future. And everything, you buy into it. There's not a frame that rings hollow. Every costume, all the makeup, everything is utterly believable. In an era where there's so much questionable CGI, then you have the Dune 2s of the world. Beyond that, it's subversion done right. That it takes the hero's journey, flips it on its head, but it delivers everything that you want. It has the big victories of a classic hero's journey, but it has this second layer of the manipulation behind all of it. All the ways that his rise to prominence is also very conniving. And there's a sinister side to it. So you have two emotions with every victory, of him embracing his destiny, which means him trading his true love, and all of this stuff at the same time that worked so well, utterly believable. But that leads us to number one. Movies ranked in now just under 5 hours. We are 45 minutes behind schedule. Coming in at number 1, The Wild Robot. This to me is the movie that made me feel the most, that captured the full spectrum of human emotions, where superficially it's about cute robot, cute animals. It's really funny. It's very clever, but at its core, it's about parenting. It's about growing up. It's about societal expectations. It's about prejudice. It's about bias. It's about kind of self-sacrifice. There's this whole little rabbit trail in the movie about like the robot during the winter, and like just like it does so many things. It was just so emotionally profound for me. For middle class suburban parents, that's what the conversation has been for the last 3 months. Is like, have you seen The Wild Robot yet? How much did you cry? Did you bring a box of Kleenex? Oh, you're going to go see it? Bring a box of Kleenex. Like, I only know one parent that saw this movie that just wasn't bawling the whole time.
It was me.
It was Jennifer right over here, not Rhodey. Rhodey cried the whole time. He was really upset for it. I thought it was just so well done. Just so entertaining, heartfelt, and such efficient storytelling that it covers so much life, so much world building, world exploration, so much time in under 2 hours. It's the sort of thing like you want more movies to like pay attention, like, see, you can do this. And it works. So for me, man, this is the movie that just absolutely popped for me. That watched it and I went, wow, this is why I love movies. Movies that make me feel everything that this movie made me feel. So it comes in. I don't even know what that was.
You're
like
getting number one.
There we go. Let's do this right here. Comes in at number 1. There we have it. Whew, we did it. I'll do that. Truly, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for this whole year, last year. Truly, like, I get to talk about movies for a living because of you. That's awesome. Keep talking movies too much.
Happy New Year.
In 2025, the new year.